Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
9 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. Our top story this hour, a person originally convicted for the murder of Utah County Sheriff's Deputy Corey Ride is set to be released today after over a decade in prison. Megan Dakota Grunwald was behind the wheel of a car that was pulled over by Sergeant Ride shortly before he was shot and killed by Grunwald's boyfriend, Jose Angel Garcia Hawargri. Grunwald is set to be released on parole later today. Almost 4 pounds of cocaine was cleverly hidden inside of a spare tire in southern Utah. Utah Highway Patrol stopped the car for a license plate violation. It was then the driver started acting suspiciously. A drug dog actually found the cocaine, which has a street value of more than $360,000. That driver was arrested. Our top national story now from ABC News. King Charles and Queen Camilla are at the White House. The king is scheduled to give a speech to both chambers of Congress before a state dinner later this evening. ABC News Royals contributor Victoria Murphy says the king's speech will be watched closely.
Because of the situation politically, this has become a very high-stakes visit, and King Charles is walking a bit of a tightrope. He needs to utilize that soft power and have influence, but he can't stray into anything that would be deemed to be political because that's not his role.
His remarks have been carefully crafted by senior diplomats, and he'll call the UK-US relationship one of the greatest alliances in human history and call for our shared values to be defended. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 52 points. At this hour, we're at 49,220. Cool and sunny today. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 9:02.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
A mother's love doesn't always look the same. It's in the woman who raised you, the one who chose you, the one who stepped in when you needed it most. It's in grandmothers, sisters, mentors, and the women who show up again and again with love, strength, and grace. This Mother's Day, Duke's Jewelers celebrates all of them. At Duke's Jewelers, they believe women who shape our lives deserve something just as meaningful as the love they give. Something timeless, personal, and filled with heart. From classic diamonds to one-of-a-kind designs, every piece is chosen to honor her story and yours. A piece she'll wear every day and think of you. Join Duke's Jewelers this Mother's Day and enjoy a complimentary rose with any jewelry purchase while supplies last. Because every kind of mom deserves to feel seen, celebrated, and loved. Visit Duke's Jewelers on Main Street in Springville and at dukesjewelers.com.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today. 1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Ready to get rid of that old car? Donate it to Cars for Kids. Call 877 Cars for Kids to speak to a friendly live agent. Donation is super easy, and your car can be picked up as soon as tomorrow. Go to carsforkids.org now or call 877 Cars for Kids to donate your car today.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Did you know you can donate real estate too? Go to carsforkids.org. That's cars with a K.
Traffic and weather together. It's brought to you by UCCU. Earn 4.24% on savings at uccu.com. And here's Ricky Meese.
We still have the final cleanup of the crash in Utah County, northbound I-15 at the point of the mountain. It's out of traffic, but the delays go past 2100 North Lehigh in Salt Lake County. Leftover slowdown southbound I-15. And they start prior to 45th South all the way down to what's left of the crash at 90th South in Sandy. It's now out of traffic. All lanes are open. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Sunny today. The high's about 60, 65 tomorrow. Back in the 70s starting on Friday. Right now, fair skies and 45 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Well, the driver involved in the death of Utah County Sheriff's Deputy Corey Ride, he was actually a sergeant at the time, is set to be released on parole on today, the 28th, after serving over a decade in prison. If you recall, Holly, Megan Dakota Grunwald was 17 at the time that this occurred. She and her then boyfriend, whose name was Jose Angel Garcia, were in a car. It was stopped for like a license plate violation, nothing really particularly serious. Sergeant Ride stopped the car. Megan was driving. Jose was the passenger. And during the course of the stop, there were some concerns about what was going on. There was some concern about the car. Sergeant Ride then walked back to his vehicle, and while he was doing that, Jose Garcia grabbed a gun, pulled it out, and shot and killed Sergeant Ride. Then Megan Grunwald was the getaway driver, so to speak. She drove away. The chase was awful. It involved other law enforcement officers. Anyway, the boyfriend was killed. Jose Garcia was ultimately killed in a shootout with police. Megan, 17 at the time, was taken into custody, and she was charged with the murder of the officer and aggravated assault on other officers during the chase. I'm trying to make a long story short, but the jury found her guilty. She went to trial and she was found guilty, but the Court of Appeals reversed some of the convictions and the Supreme Court reversed the rest.
That was super interesting to me, and I do have some questions about that. So first of all, how often does it happen that you go from murder to manslaughter and it's after the fact by quite a bit?
Yeah, so that's exactly what happened in this case. So her conviction was set aside by the Supreme Court, and so it's not common, but because the conviction was reversed, I think the state felt like they didn't really want to put everybody through another trial. Again, she was 17 at the time. The state decided to give her what we call a plea bargain. She decided to take the plea bargain, and she pled guilty to manslaughter and aggravated assault. So instead of serving a 30 to life prison term, plus a 1 to 15, she ended up serving 2 1 to 15s. The judge ran them consecutive, one after the other, and the state felt that she would still do a significant amount of time. And she has done 12 years, but she was up for parole in December. She had a parole hearing. She's done very well since she's been in prison. She's been in for 12 years, and to her credit, the victim's wife, the victim's widow, spoke in her favor at the parole hearing and actually asked that she be released. KSL News Radio, Cam Elliott previously spoke with Sergeant Ride's widow, who says she actually is supporting that release.
One of the main advocates for Grunwald's parole is Nanette Ride Zeman, Sergeant Ride's widow, who said it all came down to the first face-to-face meeting the two of them shared.
I said, "Look at me," and she put her hands down and she's just sobbing, and she looked at me and I said, "I'm not scary. Like, don't be afraid of me. We're here to heal." I was going to be her biggest cheerleader. I want her to find her happy like I found mine. And I mean, she's been in there since she was 17 years old, and she deserves a chance to be able to find her happy and most of all, learn to fall in love with herself.
I do think that's remarkable. And I also think that a 17-year-old made a really bad mistake, but she's not 17 anymore.
Right, she's 27, and it was a huge mistake. And I mean, to her credit, she's accepted responsibility, and she's also very fortunate that Sergeant Ride's widow was so forgiving. Because had she gone to the board and said, I want this young girl to spend as much time as possible in prison, she could have served up to 30 years because she got consecutive 1 to 15-year sentences. As it is, she will have ended up serving 12, which is still significant for a 17-year-old. That's almost double her life. Mm-hmm. So, but I mean, you got to hand it to this woman who felt some compassion for the kid that killed her husband.
Yeah, and you mentioned that it's been 12 years. She's actually 29 now, Grunwald is. But this is what Corey Ride's widow had to say, and this was after their meeting. And she said, I wanted to get to the point that I finally found peace and to where I could encourage her to live her happy, because I'm happier now than I've ever been in my life, and I want her to be able to find that too. And so there were lots of tears, a lot of laughter, a lot of hugs, a lot of explaining, a lot of understanding, and a lot of honesty. And that's the biggest part of our friendship.
You know, in the federal system, when a person, let's say, gets a sentence for something like this and they get 30 years, they just do 30 years, less some good time. Basically, you figure you do 85%.
Right.
But in the state system, in Utah in particular, we have indeterminate sentences, which in this case happened to be 1 to 15 years in prison times 2.
So basically she did 6 years for each count, right?
Yes, exactly. Right. So she could have done 30 years. She could have done 2 years. The Board of Pardons decides how much time she does. And that's an interesting concept. A lot of states don't do that. The federal government doesn't do that. The judge decides this punishment, you go to prison, and then they just calculate your time with good time, whatever you do. So in this case, we do have a Board of Pardons, and I think it's a good system in Utah. I mean, they get criticized periodically when they hold people too long, which is rare, or more likely they get criticized when they let someone out too early, and people are going, hey, wait a minute, why did you do that? But they take into account, in large respect, Holly, the wishes of the victims. Now, that's not the only thing, because the law enforcement that was involved, the prosecutors that were involved, other people can weigh in. But boy, having a victim's widow come to your parole hearing and address the parole board and say, I have forgiven her, I'm now in a good place, I've done well as a result of this, I understand that you were 17 at the time. Now you're 29. 12 years is a lot of time. I think enough is enough. I mean, that, I'm sure, made a huge difference with the Board of Pardons.
I have a question for you, because it sounds like that parole hearing was in December, and now we're to the end of April. Why so long between that hearing and the release date?
So it wasn't the entire board. What happens is, because they do parole hearings all the time, they'll have a member of the board. Sometimes it's even like an ex officio member, somebody that's just appointed from the community. And then they'll do these board hearings. Let's say they did 4 or 5 that day, or maybe a dozen that day. Then they'll gather the information on each of them. Then they'll present it to the board as a whole, and they'll go through each case. And they probably just decided, okay, there may be some magic to April 28th, 2026. You know what I mean? They met and decided, okay, let's release her on this particular date. Maybe it marks exactly 12 years, or maybe it marks something else, or maybe they just thought that's a good day to let her out. But the board could have made it, January 3rd, whatever. But it takes them a little while after they have the parole hearing for the report to come in from the hearing officer, who'll say, I attended this hearing. Megan has done very well. Here's what she's done when she's in prison. Here's what the victims had to say. Here's what the victim's widow said. I'm recommending an early release, and then the board just decides where to put her on the matrix. And she happened to end up on April 28th, 2026. But it's a good question. It was only 5 months after the hearing.
Yeah. So we only have a minute left, but I do have another question for you. What can Megan expect today? So she's walking out today, then what happens?
She'll be on parole. Some people say probation, some parole. Probation is what you get instead of prison. Parole is what you get after prison. They're the same. You have a parole officer. So she'll be on parole, and it could be for up to 30 years, well, less the 12 she's already done. So the parole can last the extent of the maximum prison sentence you could have served. So she'll be on parole. My guess is probably 5 years, maybe 10 years. If she's doing well, she'll be terminated. She'll have to check in every month. She'll be tested, drug tested, those kind of things if she has a drug problem. She'll have all kinds of conditions to her parole. Won't be able to move out of state. She'll be a convicted felon probably for the rest of her life. And if she does well, the parole will end, and then she'll just be a normal citizen. However, she'll have a criminal record.
I'm hoping she had a chance for education, right? We've talked about the importance of education for people who are incarcerated. Right. So thank you for clearing that up for me. All right. We talked about this yesterday, but Box Elder County was looking at a massive data center project proposal. They've hit pause. We're going to learn more about why after the break.
Hi, this is Derek Overstreet, president of the New Millennium Group and co-host of Stop Working, Start Living with KSL News Radio. Can you imagine what your life would be like if you could retire 3 to 5 years earlier than you thought possible? The things you could do, the loved ones you could spend time with, the memories that you could create. That's what our team at the New Millennium Group does. We'll walk you through the entire process every step of the way. If you'd like to get a copy of the 5-step proprietary plan that will help you retire 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible, give us a shout right now. 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com. Listen, most of our listeners right now have a tax problem, not a money problem. There's not enough money in Social Security Medicare as it is. Let us show you how you can significantly reduce your taxes. That's 888-999-6370. 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com.
Did you know Utah State University is home to one of the nation's leading centers for disability research and advocacy? At the Institute for Disability Research, Policy, and Practice, we work side by side with Utahns with disabilities, their families, and community partners to make our state more accessible and inclusive for everyone. Our researchers, educators, and advocates partner with family service providers and policymakers to create real lasting change. We believe that everyone deserves a chance to live, learn, work, and play in our communities. From helping children reach their potential in early intervention programs, to building accessible technologies, to improving mental health and employment supports, our work touches every corner of the state. The Institute for Disability Research, Policy, and Practice is the only disability-focused research center in the state of Utah. That means we're Utah's home for innovation, data-driven policy, and community solutions that make life better for people with disabilities. Find us at idrpp.usu.edu.
Wait, everything on this IHOP value menu is just $6?
I told you it was amazing. A huge plate of pancakes, bacon, and eggs is just $6.
Wow.
There's also French toast, a ham and cheese omelet, and oh, they got a BLT and fries now.
Okay, we're coming here every day.
You don't have to tell me twice.
Feast for just $6 with the IHOP value menu. $7 in some locations, available every day for a limited time at participating restaurants in the U.S. Hours may vary. No substitutions. Not valid with other discounts or promotions. Prices may vary.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses for a limited time. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.
Right now, water heaters are on sale at Any Hour Services. Schedule a free estimate today to see how much you'll save. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
Over the years, you've brought them into your home. You were prescribed opioids after the C-section, when Dad injured his back, when your basketball star tore his ACL. Opioids helped with the pain, and you held on to them just in case. But did you know holding on to unused opioids puts your family at risk? Opioids are powerful pain-reducing prescription medicines, but most people who are prescribed opioids don't finish their prescriptions. So millions of unused opioids are sitting in homes across the country. And tragically, more than 100 Americans die every day from overdoses involving opioids. What can you do to protect your family? Remove the risk of unused opioids from your home. Pills, patches, or syrups in drawers, purses, and cabinets, anywhere they might be hiding. To find out how to dispose of them properly, visit www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
Everything to my back is dark.
High in the alpine wilderness.
Really ugly clouds coming over from the north.
A place
The ridgeline is imposing, the escarpments, the drops.
where survival,
It's dark now. I have nothing.
is never certain.
This is not good.
My name's Dave Cawley, and I'm the host of a podcast called Uinta Triangle. It's about the disappearance of an Australian hiker named Eric.
Our conclusion, and that of the sheriff, is that the mountains have decided to keep him.
Come retrace Eric's footprints with me.
You have done this walk too, but this is your backyard.
Did he really make a wrong turn, or did he decide that he was done?
He is not the first or last person to vanish in this remote region.
It was haunting to see the photos. I mean, really.
Find and follow the podcast series Uinta Triangle. That's Uinta, spelled U-I-N-T-A, Triangle, wherever you get your podcasts. All episodes out now.
And expanded Inside Sources.
Yesterday, if you recall, Holly, we were talking about a proposal that was going to be heard actually during our show by the Box Elder County Commission involving this data center that is proposed to be set up in that county, in sort of the rural part of Box Elder County.
40,000 acres.
40,000 acres and consuming more energy than the entire state does, almost double the amount of energy that's currently being consumed by the state of Utah. The Box Elder County Commission was meeting. The purchase of the property had been made. It seemed like a done deal. We were talking about it as though this will be something good for Utah, or maybe not. 2,000 jobs.
I was just saying we were talking
right.
about how it's being presented.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. But there's certainly pros and cons to it. The Box Elder County Commission, we're now learning, has sort of put the brakes on it.
At least a little. And somebody who's been following this closely is Tim Vandenack from KSL.com. Thanks for joining us this morning, Tim.
Good morning. Yep, you're welcome.
So first of all, I didn't learn about this project, at least that I remember, until yesterday's news stories that I was seeing about the Box Elder County Commission, and it sounds like they've had very little notice as well. But can you just kind of give us an overview again of what this project would do?
Yeah, and honestly, it's you're dealing with the government, so they're kind of tight-lipped. So you're kind of trying to pry information out about what exactly this is and what it means. But they call it a large data center campus supporting artificial intelligence and cloud computing, and so they say that would. It sounds like, and again, they're pretty vague, but it sounds like it would potentially support military operations as well as contractors, defense contractors serving the military. And I'm not, I'm not an expert on AI, so I don't know if these are manufacturing facilities or somehow, I don't know, the military crunches these numbers to do its military strategizing. But apart from that data center, that requires energy, so they would also be, huge power generating capacity facilities there, generating 7.5 gigawatts of power to power these data centers. So it's spread over 40,000 acres is what they've said. It's 3 parcels of land in kind of the northern reaches of Box Elder County. One of them is kind of off I-84, the other pretty undeveloped looking property.
Tim, I'm looking at an article that you wrote in the KSL.com this morning. Can you describe the meeting by the county commission as raucous?
Yeah.
We kind of expected it to just go through, and I don't know why. We obviously naive, but what happened at the meeting?
Well, so there's been, if you've been paying close attention, there have been little bits and pieces of news dating to February, but by and large, it seems like most people learned about it, last week. And so some of these groups in opposition supporting the Great Salt Lake, worried about the water consumption and environmental impacts, they really coalesced and showed up at the meeting. Sounds like, based on what the 3 county commissioners were saying, they've been inundated with messages as well from constituents wondering what this is all about. So you had the county commissioners, saying we got to keep order, don't speak out. And then in the audience, it wasn't out of hand, but yeah, they would be blurting out questions here and there. A lot of them were holding signs critical of the data center. And the county commissioners themselves, I don't know that they had a lot of questions. So they were asking them, about water, about other impacts. The thing that seemed to miss them the most is that they felt that they were out of the loop on the subject, and they wish they would have known about it earlier and had been in the loop. That seemed to be what I gathered to be their biggest gripe. I didn't necessarily detect huge necessarily concerns with the project. So, I don't know, who knows? I can't read minds, but when they were talking about the water and the representatives of the project explained how it would use minimal water, kind of assuaging those concerns, they didn't push back on it. I guess the other criticism were the studies showing what impact this is going to have. So far, haven't heard a lot of pushback from the county leaders. Again, just kind of miffed. Why weren't you keeping us in the loop on this?
So Tim, they did push pause on this, but it doesn't sound like it's maybe that long of a pause. Can you tell us about this pause?
Yeah, they had originally been scheduled last Friday to take approve a resolution in an interlocal agreement that allows the project to go forward. They moved that to Monday, and they actually met on it last Wednesday. I don't know how crowded a meeting that was, so it sounds like they want to kind of digest all this information that they're getting, that they're trying to crunch, and sounds like they have been really doing their homework, trying to get up to speed on it, and then they'll take it up again next Monday. So I didn't get the sense that there weren't any serious question marks they raised about what about this aspect of the project, or what about that aspect, or I don't think this aspect is workable. So we'll see what happens on Monday. They scheduled it in a larger venue at the fairgrounds facility to hold more people because it got pretty crowded. I think there was overflow crowd. And we'll see. It sounds like they want to take action next Monday.
Tim, did you get the sense from the people that were there, the audience, the public, that the weight of the opinion was against it, or was it for it, or did you feel like there was a pretty good mix of people both for and against?
Well, the people who were most vocal were kind of critical of it, and it was just a lot of questions like, what, we don't know about this. Where are the studies that back this up? So it was a lot of questions, a lot of just wondering what exactly is this going to do. And I kind of got the sense that there were people there, maybe not so critical, who maybe kept more quiet, but I think a lot of people do have questions. I don't think they're necessarily opposed to it or will be opposed. It just was kind of sprung by surprise on them, and they just are trying to grapple with all the details is the main thing for a lot of people, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. I especially appreciate you following this so closely. So in between now and Monday, when they meet again, are you getting the sense that the public is really involved now in communicating with each other, with getting the word out? Do you expect that there's going to be more people who show up on this coming Monday? Yeah, definitely they're going to stay on it. But at the same time, the critics, they're going to be there. But I also noticed that the county itself is trying to be a little more, is starting outreach. They've created a website with fact sheets and information. They've spread the word. They've created a website where the public can sound off and ask their questions and air their concerns. So the county as well, Box Elder County people, probably working with the MEDA, which is the government entity involved in this, are trying to increase outreach and communication to try to contend with this sort of backlash.
All right, that was Tim Vandenek, KSL.com, who joined us this morning. And Holly, this was something yesterday I don't know that I particularly understood the significance of it, except that the energy generation. But one thing that concerned me about it was water, especially at a time right now when we're trying to get every drop into the Great Salt Lake. And of course, that area there feeds into the Bear River drainage area, which is an important part of the northern inflow into the Great Salt Lake. And so if that's going to be cut off at all, you would expect there to be some significant concern.
I think one of the things that we mentioned yesterday, and this is in the pitch, right, is that they're not going to consume any more water than a rancher would in that area because it's going to be covered and they have a recirculation plan. But again, sometimes what you pitch at the beginning is not how it works out. So I think people are rightly concerned about the water issue.
Yeah, well, we'll follow that again next week when it comes up for a vote. We're learning also this morning that the United Arab Emirates is indicating they want out of OPEC. We'll have live analysis next as to help us understand what that means. We've seen oil prices go up, and they've seen a lot going on in the Middle East. Maybe OPEC is in a little bit of flux right now. We'll talk about that when we come back.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. Our top story this hour, a Lehigh man has been arrested after police say he purposefully rammed a car with a woman and her children inside. KSL News Radio's Cameron Elliott has the story.
According to police documents, Joshua Tatafu began the confrontation at a red light on Timpanogos Highway, where the woman says he got out of his car and began to aggressively approach hers. She fled to a nearby Smith's parking lot, where Tatafu followed her. After a short chase through the lot, police say Tatafu rammed the driver's side of the woman's car with her 4 children inside. Tatafu was later arrested after police say they found him sitting outside of his car in the same lot, appearing to be drunk.
He was booked on 5 counts of aggravated assault and a handful of driving-related offenses. Our top national story this hour, the standoff in and around the Strait of Hormuz continues. Iran says it is threatening maritime traffic from traveling in and out of the strait, but the U.S. is also blocking any ship from trying to use Iranian ports. More from ABC's Tom Sufi-Burridge.
The Trump administration is betting that the pressure on Iran's economy, which was already in dire straits before the war, is going to be enough to really pressure the Iranians to the table and into concessions or even capitulation. And the Iranians appear to think that they still have cards to play in their stranglehold over the Strait of Hormuz. The pain that's inflicting on the world economy, pushing up energy prices and gas prices in the US, with the midterms just months away, that'll be too much for Donald Trump ultimately to handle. And that is the position that we're in right now.
Oil is trading higher today. In fact, let's get a look at it. The oil is at $99.45 a barrel. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 51 points. We're at 49,218. Sunny, but on the cool side today. Coming up, KSL weather. KSL News Time, 9:32. Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
I'm back to doing what I love and more, thanks to the Good Feet store.
Does it feel like someone stabbing a knife into your heel? Or does your lower back give you problems as the day goes on? The Good Feet store wants to help you, like we helped Ann.
Every time I stood up, pain just shot up my legs. Fortunately, I found the Good Feet store. I went to them after my doctor diagnosed me with plantar fasciitis. And now, thanks to the Good Feet store, I'm 100%.
Wouldn't it be nice to get back to doing what you love, like Patrick did?
I was in constant pain. Somehow my fiance and I found our way into the Good Feet store. Put my foot on the arch support system. I put them in my shoes, my back, my knees, my ankles. Thank you. Thank you, everybody at the Good Feet store. You gave me my active life back.
Learn more or schedule an appointment at goodfeet.com and come in and get your free personalized fitting at the Good Feet store. We have locations in Farmington, Riverton, and Sandy.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Since 1947, Whipple Service Champions has been Utah's most trusted name for heating, cooling, plumbing, and electrical services. Got a high-priced repair bill from another company and you're just not sure about it? Call Whipple. Get a free, no-pressure estimate or bring us their quote for an honest second opinion. Totally free. Whipple Service Champions, Utah's first place for second opinions since 1947. Call 385-273-7167 for your free estimate today. 385-273-7167.
Progressive knows life takes you in many directions.
Bear right at exit 32, then begin to wonder why you never bought a fish tank. In 1.3 miles, you'll realize you've been mispronouncing epitome your whole life. At the roundabout, you will remember you said something at dinner you wish you hadn't and will think about it for decades. You have arrived at your destination, but it turns out there really is no destination and life just keeps going.
Wherever life takes you, protect your home and auto with a bundle from Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states or situations.
I know that hiring can be challenging. You need someone to match your role perfectly. Well, now you can meet them fast on ZipRecruiter.
Build your team, build it sooner. Meet your match on ZipRecruiter.
Just head to ZipRecruiter.com/free right now to try it for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Meet your match on ZipRecruiter. Try it free.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by UCCU. Build smart, save big with construction loans at UCCU. And here's Ricky Meese.
We do have a crash in Utah County, northbound I-15, approaching the Pleasant Grove Boulevard exit. The vehicles have been over to the shoulder, and we may have a secondary crash in the mix, but that right lane is blocked. You'll see delays through Linden and almost to Orem, southbound I-15. We are still dealing with leftover delays from an earlier crash near 90th South. Now, there is a secondary crash sticking out in the right lane prior to 90th, and that is backing traffic to the South Interchange. With nutrients blended for greener, healthier turf in our local soil, IFA's 4+ Lawn Care program is the ultimate lawn owner power move. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Sunny today, highs of 60, so not too warm. 65 tomorrow. We're up to 70 on Friday and 79 on Sunday. Right now it's 45 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Well, we learned this morning that the United Arab Emirates has indicated that it is quitting OPEC. That's a huge blow to OPEC, and they're one of the major players in OPEC. The loss of UAE, which has been a longstanding OPEC member, could actually weaken the group. We don't know what that's going to mean overall, but their energy minister said that the decision was made after a careful look at the regional powers' energy strategies, and I'm sure it has something to do with what's going on with the Strait of Hormuz and Iran and the United States. And OPEC may be on the brink. And OPEC was designed, well, we could talk about our expert here a little bit, but how OPEC was formed and what it's about. It's kind of a union of nations in that region that deals with a lot of oil.
Plus Russia.
Right.
So it's interesting that I've heard OPEC. I know that it has to do with oil, but I am not a Middle East expert. And so we have one who is. It's Dr. Austin Neppe, assistant professor and director of the Haravi Peace Institute at Utah State University. Thanks for joining us, Dr. Neppe.
Thanks for having me back. I don't know if I'm an expert, but I'm certainly an aspiring expert in a complicated region. So.
You're far more of an expert than we are. So I'm wondering if you can just give us kind of an overview of what this could mean to the Middle East with the UAE pulling out of OPEC.
Yeah, so OPEC started in the early 1960s as a way to form basically a cartel of petroleum exporting countries to give them more leverage economically and politically. The last time you really saw OPEC play a significant political role was in the mid-1970s during the oil crisis. You had an Israeli war as well, Jimmy Carter, right, all that. So that OPEC really affected U.S. foreign policy and shaped Gulf politics. You're seeing the same things now. I suspect that what the Emirates is trying to do is to wrestle back some leverage from Iran in terms of Iran being able to drive up both directly and indirectly energy prices around the world and really put pressure on the U.S. and its allies. So we're seeing OPEC play a political role once again, which is not uncommon.
How big of an oil producer is the UAE? We understand that it's a fairly significant source of oil worldwide.
Yeah, so they're probably in the top 10 or 15. I don't know exactly their rank. They don't export nearly as much as Saudi or Iran, for that matter. But all they need to do is create some uncertainty to loosen Iran's grip on energy markets. Right, oil is traded on a global marketplace, so it's really difficult for any single producer, except for those maybe top 3 or 5, to really single-handedly change oil prices based on their foreign policy. This is a strong signal that they're trying to adapt to the way Iran is navigating the conflict.
So I understand, Dr. Neppe, that there's been maybe a little bit of friction between the UAE and Saudi Arabia. Is that part of what is playing into this, do you think?
I think it's primarily aimed at Iran. And with the encouragement of the U.S., certainly, the Gulf states have collective interests, but they're also independent sovereign nations that have regional disagreements. So you saw there's a Gulf Cooperation Council diplomatic dispute in 2017 or 2018 where all the Gulf states were basically picking on Qatar. So the fact that they're all Arab Sunni monarchies doesn't mean they have the same national interests or aspirations for the region. So the fact that you have disagreements, even if they're subtle, between Saudi and Emirates is not all that surprising.
Can you remind our listeners, Dr. Neppe, about, and you indicated sort of the how OPEC was formed in the 60s, but why it was formed and what impact it has had in the 60 years it's been in existence on the oil network?
Yeah, so it was formed. Not just Middle East states. Russia nowadays is not part of OPEC, but Venezuela is. So it's about the top 15 or so oil exporting states. They formed an economic cartel to be able to shape global energy prices. So it's basically an international organization that allows them to coordinate their diplomatic strategy with respect to exporting oil. And whenever there's uncertainty in that part of the world, especially the Persian Gulf, oil prices go up, and then that affects the foreign policy of great powers like the U.S., Russia, and China, as we're seeing now. The last time really OPEC was probably on the front page of the newspaper for the average voter was in the mid-1970s, the U.S.-Egypt-Jordan War and 73 war. And obviously, in the United States context, Jimmy Carter was dealing with inflation and unemployment and rising energy prices. At that point, I grew up in California. You had rationing of oil where you could fill up your tank based on if you had an even or odd number on your license plate, right? So that was an area where it really affected everyday U.S. consumers, and it really inspired the U.S. then to start a strategic petroleum reserve to say, okay, if these 15 or so nations can really that drastically affect energy prices, we need to have a backup plan to help control for these economic shocks. So it's certainly been not just an economic player, but a global diplomatic player as well.
So I have a couple of questions. One, you called them a cartel, and to my mind, when I hear that, I think bad, not good.
Yeah, right.
Is there a different meaning to that word?
Yeah, so cartel not in the sense of narco-terrorism, right? In Latin America, cartel is simply a collection of countries or firms that coordinate to try to control the marketplace.
Okay.
Right. So it's a kind of a narrow economic term to say how a whole bunch of companies or states can coordinate to try to shape supply and demand dynamics.
Okay, and then a follow-up question. You mentioned during the 70s, right, the oil and gas shortages. Will this impact gas prices in the U.S. or access to gas and petroleum products?
Well, it certainly will, and it's not just energy products, right? We're seeing shortages on airplane fuel for the major commercial airlines. It also affects plastics and fertilizers and a whole bunch of downstream food and other staples and trade. So this is the international economy, especially with respect to energy, is so interdependent, it's so interconnected, that even if the strait were demined and completely functional as of 12 hours from now, we're still going to see economic effects in the next 6, 12, or even 18 months. And so we're dealing not just with uncertainty this week with respect to the market and energy prices, but also in the medium-term future, which makes it highly complicated, which how you approach diplomacy in the war now, right? You're projecting not only your position here this week, but also thinking several years down the line.
Let me ask you a question. We've only got about a minute, and this is a question that probably has a 10-minute answer. But how is it, or maybe why is it, that oil prices are set globally? So I'm thinking in the United States, we produce our own oil. We can ship, we can take it wherever we want. Other countries, Venezuela, do the same thing, Russia. But there seems to be maybe it's just a tacit agreement that oil prices are set on a global market level.
Yeah, so that has to do with the post-World War II period, something called the Bretton Woods system. So after World War II, the U.S. and Western Europe, as it recovers from the war, builds out what we call the liberal international order, and it uses then the dollar. The United States is very shrewd and is able to use the dollar as a global reserve currency. And that positions it not only to rebuild Europe and Asia under the Marshall Plan in Europe, but also with international trade. So that really links the dollar as a reserve currency to the price of energy worldwide. It's a way for people to trade in energy, despite the fact you have dozens and dozens of different currencies. And it helps coordinate prices. So that's about the shortest explanation I can give you on air, but it gets more complicated from there.
Actually, it made a lot of sense.
Thank you so much for joining us again, Dr. Nuppy. That was Dr. Austin Nuppy from Utah State University. You know, this story was interesting to me because it's been nearly 5 months since 2 men were killed in a church parking lot outside a funeral in Salt Lake. Now, police have arrested and charged a suspect with murder. And I'm going to ask you questions about how that all went down when we come back after this break.
You know, yesterday after the show, I went to my office and a client was there with his 2 daughters. They were talking to me, and pretty soon they started looking at me more and more. And I'm like, what's going on? And they said, have you lost weight? And I'll tell you what, that was the most beautiful thing I heard all day. It was exciting to my ears because I thought, you know what, I have lost weight, and I'm glad people are noticing. I hooked up with SOTA, SOTA Diet Nutrition a couple of weeks ago. I've only been on, I think tomorrow is my 4-week anniversary, but I'll be getting pretty close to 18 pounds, I think, tomorrow. I haven't weighed myself yet, but I'm going in to do that tomorrow and see where I've come. SOTA Diet Nutrition has been great. It has no pills, no injections. It just changes my food plan, changes a little bit about how I eat, when I eat, and haven't suffered at all in terms of good diet and a lot of things that I've really enjoyed. So SOTADietNutrition.com. Remember, join them for a short time to have results that last a lifetime.
You trust us for news and information in your car. Now trust us at home. KSL News Radio has you covered, keeping you informed on the latest breaking news, weather, traffic, sports, and more. Listen on your Amazon Echo or Google Home device. Just say, Alexa, open KSL News Radio. Or listen on the KSL News Radio Listen app. Text the word app to 57500. KSL News Radio. We have you covered.
Kitchen and bath transformations start with AMC Building Materials. AMC Building Materials is a large kitchen cabinet and countertop supplier serving both wholesale and retail customers. AMC offers factory direct pricing on all interior remodeling materials, giving you exceptional value without sacrificing quality. Most standard items are available for quick payment and pickup right away. AMC Building Materials provides professional service, free design, and free on-site measurements, along with expert installation by top AMC professionals. From bold kitchen designs to beautiful functional bathrooms, AMC delivers outstanding value with styles you'll love. And best of all, most projects can be completed within just 10 days. Come experience beauty you can see, quality you can feel, and service you can trust. Get directions to the new AMC Building Materials showroom at 3678 South 700 West today and schedule your free estimate. Visit amckitchenslc.org. That's amckitchenslc.org.
I'm Christian Staples with Arctic Spas. Ever wonder why I say Arctic Spa, the only spa built for Utah's harsh climate? Well, we are the world's most northern manufacturer of spas, and we are built for the cold climates. We are just more heavy duty. It is commercial grade, but built for your house. We use fiberglass instead of ABS plastic. We use thicker, stronger, better insulating covers. We use our heat lock insulation to utilize the excess heat from the motors to help heat the water and protect the equipment. Arctic Spas are designed to last longer and be less expensive for you over the long term. Arctic Spas are known for their water care automation with our automatic saltwater system and our automatic pH control. We have it, no one else does. This makes it easier and more enjoyable for you to own an Arctic Spa. Find the perfect Arctic Spa for you at arcticspasutah.com or visit any of our 3 stores covering all of Utah in Salt Lake, American Fork, and St. George. That's why we say Arctic Spa, the only spa built for Utah's harsh climate.
For the ones who get it done, Grainger offers the professional-grade products you need to get the job done. With fast delivery you can depend on and access to technical product experts ready to help you meet any challenge. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by.
Support comes from Amazon Business. Unlock smart business buying with fast, free delivery on millions of items and practical AI innovations that automate repetitive tasks so you can make smarter decisions faster. Learn more at AmazonBusiness.com.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. You know, the big wireless companies say they have discounts for people over 55, but unless you're willing to sit on hold and ask, you're probably paying more than you should. At Consumer Cellular, there's nothing to hunt down. We're built for people 50 plus with plans starting at just $20. And our 100% US-based customer service actually answers the phone. Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com today and get your second month free for a limited time.
Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
At Social Security, we are always thinking of ways to save you time and make things easier. That's why we created My Social Security. A My Social Security account allows you to access your earnings history and benefits information, request a replacement Social Security card, get a proof of income letter, estimate and apply for benefits, and more. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security. Securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
All in together now, we can make it better. Can we do it? We'll rope it up.
Cause we know how to jump. Moving and eating better every day can help make you and your kids healthier. Search We Can online to find out more. A message from the Ad Council, HHS, and NIH's We Can program.
and expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
Well, we're learning this morning that Salt Lake City police claim they have tracked down a third person they believe was behind a deadly shooting outside a funeral in Rose Park earlier this year. Here's KSL News Radio's Becky Bruce with more.
Salt Lake City police say they located John Usyk Jr. in California after an extensive investigation. They're bringing him back to Utah. They intend to book him into the Salt Lake County Jail on suspicion of homicide. At least 2 other people have been arrested so far in the case. Today, though, police are telling us they believe there could be more people involved. They're asking any possible witnesses to reach out to them. Becky Bruce, KSL News Radio.
Yeah, if you recall, Holly, there was a funeral on 6 North and Redwood Road on January 7th. There, after the people were exiting the venue, a car drove by. There were some individuals in the car. The shots were fired. 2 men were killed. Sione Vaituvai and Vioa Tukihifo were both killed. 38 and 46-year-old men, not involved in any sort of gang or activity, just by all accounts seem to have been in the wrong place at the wrong time. 2 individuals were arrested shortly thereafter, Ezekiel Tai and Ryan Daniel Tutai. However, they were looking for a third suspect who has now been arrested in California. It took a while, obviously, because this is a homicide, a double homicide that occurred on January 7th of this year.
So one of the things I remember from that case is that when the 2 men were arrested, they were charged with obstruction of justice. But what I also remember is they refused to give any additional information. So they weren't being charged with murder, but they refused to cooperate really with the police, as I understand it.
Right, which brought forth the obstruction of justice charges. So it's one thing to say, I wish to invoke my right to remain silent, but if you lie or make some misrepresentations, and that's what they're alleging, that the police said that these 2 actually went out of their way to send the police in a wrong direction,
right,
give them inappropriate information. So they're both booked in on obstruction of justice. And that's a serious crime, because obstruction of justice is a crime that the severity of which is based on the crime you're obstructing. So obstructing a murder is a really serious crime as opposed to obstructing a shoplift. So these 2 are charged with first-degree felonies.
So help me understand, if you can, what are the steps that the police took to get from the shooting that happened in the parking lot to hostile witnesses to being able to track down and arrest a man in California?
Yeah, let me just clear up one thing. The obstruction is a second-degree felony because the murder is a first-degree. So what happened was this. After the shooting took place, the police started gathering as much information as they could, and the police have been very frustrated. They made it very clear that people were not cooperating, people were lying to them, so they just started hooking people up, especially people that were giving them bad information. They had this latest person in their radar. They were looking for him, this John Usyk, and they were looking for him. They didn't know where he was. They finally got some tips and got some information that he may have been in California. They then arrested him there just recently. He was in, sounds like Alberta, California. I'm not sure where that is. But he was charged on April 9th in 3rd District Court. They had figured out who he was. They charged him April 9th, which is, 3 months, 2 days after the shooting. But they sealed that. That charging document was sealed because they didn't want him to know that they were looking for him. And I'm just guessing, I'm surmising here based on 44 years of practice. So I think that they were going, hey, wait a minute, we don't want him to know we're looking. And then they had a sort of a search out for him. I suppose the California authorities were very helpful in this as well, but they've now taken him into custody. He's still, to my knowledge, in California awaiting extradition. That process could take weeks or days, depending on how much he fights it. But then he'll be brought to Utah to face charges potentially of murder.
Wasn't he charged with murder?
Yes. Well, so it says he's been charged with murder, but I looked up, and maybe it's because it's still sealed, but I couldn't find the charges. So the I'm looking at the report here from Deseret News, or KSL.com rather, and it says that he has been charged with murder, but in terms of the court documents, I couldn't find his name in the court record. That doesn't mean he hasn't been charged. It just means if he has been charged, it's still under seal.
And I misspoke. I said it has been almost 5 months. It's actually been almost 4 months, because if we get to the beginning of May, I don't know, time just goes fast.
I remember this situation. We
Yeah,
talked
we-
about it
we
on the
did. We
show a
talked about
couple
it
of times,
mul-
and
yeah, several times.
They arrested one person,
Yep.
then a day later they arrested another person,
Mhm.
and police are still looking. They just reading between the lines here. They're not done.
Yeah.
They're not done charging people, and they're still looking for someone else who may still be under a sealed document. We may not know his or her name yet either, but they're looking for him too. This was a terrible situation because there were apparently rival, I won't say gang, but probably gang members there, groups. They were there coming out of the funeral home, and this car drives by and starts shooting, and the two victims had nothing to do with any of this rivalry. They just happened to be standing in the wrong place at the wrong time. 38 and 46-year-old men just walking out of the LDS chapel, it sounds like.
So one of the things that is interesting to me, and this is from the KSL.com article, but it says that this person who's been arrested was injured during the shootout in the parking lot. And so it sounds to me like police maybe had a good idea that he was the one.
Yeah, it almost seems like he went to the hospital or
He
received
did. It
some
says he
medical
was,
attention.
yeah.
Right. So why they didn't hook him up then, they had him, they knew where he was. Maybe they just didn't have probable cause. They just didn't have quite enough of a case yet.
Yeah.
They may have even tried to interview him, and maybe he chose not to talk or whatever.
Yeah.
But he's clearly been in their radar. He's clearly been a suspect. Maybe not enough to charge him formally, but something has come together in their case.
Yeah.
We don't know the exact details because, again, a lot of this is still under seal. But police now feel like he is actually potentially one of the shooters, and they say one of the shooters.
Yeah.
That makes me think that they think there may be two shooters.
Well, they do have witness statements that there were at least two people firing weapons. So the other thing that's interesting about this man, he has prior convictions in California, one of which is assaulting someone with a semi-automatic firearm. He served 7 years in prison for that incident.
Yeah, and he's a little bit older than the others. The two that were charged earlier are 32 and 22. Well, he's 32 also. I was looking at the one kid that was only 22 years old. I mean, young people to be involved in such serious crimes because these are life-altering crimes if they're convicted, and certainly even the obstruction charge would probably result in a prison term unless they decide to cooperate with the state or testify, which again it doesn't always happen, and when it does, sometimes it's problematic. But yeah, this John Uwasike now been arrested in Alberta, California, or in that area, waiting extradition, and it's only a matter of time before he's brought to Utah, because the extradition process is really just an identification process. If Utah can say, go to California and say, that's the man we're looking for, then you're extradited. It's not like you get to fight the charges, like the underlying homicide or whatever they are charges.
Well, how is that different then? And I'm going to pivot, but this is the man in Moab who is suspected of murdering those three women. He's in Colorado, but he's fighting it. So you just said you can't really fight it.
Well, you can, but the fight is I'm not the person they're looking for. So Utah just needs to go to Colorado and say, have a detective there say, yep, that's the guy we're looking for. It's really that simple. That's why I always advise clients to just waive extradition, because otherwise you're just wasting time. And the time you serve in jail fighting your extradition does not count toward your time usually. The judge isn't going to give you the break for that. So he may be just saying, I don't want to go to Utah because he's facing a capital homicide here.
Yeah.
And just saying, I'll fight it. And maybe the authorities in Wayne County just haven't had the wherewithal and time to get to California. Yeah. I assume that'll happen soon.
Well, this man in California, he's probably facing capital homicide too, because there were two victims. Is that correct? Even
it could very well be.
They may choose not to charge him with that, but
yeah, I mean the documents that we're seeing, again, I'm looking at KSL.com, says 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of firing a gun and causing serious injury, and it even says in 3rd District Court. So somebody had access to these records, but murder because aggravated murder is aggravated murder. You would expect it to be articulated that way.
Okay. Well, thanks for that information.
So we got a little bit more information on that deadly shooting, and it's police are putting it together.
And unlike shows where everything is wrapped up in 30 minutes, sometimes it takes a while.
Yeah, yes, that's exactly right. Well, this case has actually moved on a very fast track, but the man who rushed toward the ballroom where the White House Correspondents' Dinner was being held, was it Sunday night or Saturday night?
Saturday night.
Saturday night, has now been formally charged. He's taken into custody at the scene. He's been arrested, and he's been formally charged with multiple felonies, including attempting to assassinate the president. based on some things that he wrote. We'll talk about what we've learned about him when we come back.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. Our top story this hour, we've now seen 2 hikers die in Zion National Park just as tourism in the park picks up. This second fall happened last Wednesday. Washington County Sheriff's Sergeant Jacob Paul says a group of hikers found him and called for help. Paul says the man is from California and had been in the area several times for rock scrambling, climbing, and that was the likely cause of finding without a rope. That was likely the cause of his fall.
Being prepared, having people come with you, having the proper first aid equipment to help you in the event that you do fall.
Sergeant Paul says in another incident over the weekend, a woman was airlifted after falling 15 feet off of a trail in Ivins. She had others with her who quickly called for help. Riverdale has some new watering restrictions. The city says it has a 20% smaller water supply than in previous years. Residents can only start using sprinklers this Friday, and no watering will be allowed between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. The city is asking residents to be water conscious and cut their usage by 20%. Our top national story this hour, peace talks with Iran appear to be in limbo, and Vladimir Putin is seizing the moment.
While the Trump administration seems far from any kind of deal with Iran after abruptly canceling negotiations last weekend in Pakistan, Vladimir Putin is happily stepping in, meeting face-to-face with Iran's foreign minister in Russia. Putin promising his support to Iran in seeking peace.
ABC's Martha Raditz reporting. Your money at this moment. The Dow is up 86 points at this hour. We're at 49,254. Coming up, we're starting to warm up. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:02. A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
Hey folks, Jay Broadbent here from Alpine Home Medical. I've been helping folks breathe easier for 29 years now. Trust me, at my age, I know a thing or two about needing a good night's sleep. Is your CPAP mask old and nasty? Are your masks, filters, or tubing from the pre-COVID era? Or just plain tired of the hassle of ordering supplies yourself? Switch to our resupply program. We handle everything, automatic shipment straight to your door, insurance billing, and expert support. It's quick, easy, and keeps your sleep therapy on track. Doesn't matter where you got your machine from, anyone can join. Head to alpinehomemedical.com, click on the Easy Resupply button. That's alpinehomemedical.com.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses for a limited time. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life's sleep.
A multi-billion-dollar settlement is paying claims for up to 21 years. If you were exposed to weed killers at work or at home, your rights are affected. If you or your family has or had non-Hodgkin lymphoma, you could receive $6,000 to $165,000 or more. This settlement impacts you even if you're not sick, because this blood cancer can take 10 to 15 years to appear. If you stay in the settlement, you give up your right to sue. Learn more at weedkillerclass.com or call 888-403-8201. Paid for by the Roundup Settlement.
Everything to my back is dark.
High in the alpine wilderness.
The ridgeline is imposing, the escarpments, the drops.
A place where survival,
it's dark now, I have nothing,
is never certain. In 2011, an Australian hiker vanished.
Did he really make a wrong turn, or did he decide that he was done?
You have done this walk too, but this is your backyard.
The mountains have decided to keep him.
Find and follow the podcast series Uinta Triangle, wherever you get your podcasts.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by UCCU. Build smart, save big. UCCU, love where you bank. And here's Ricky Meese.
Finally, back to a quiet drive on all the Valley freeways. Earlier crashes and delays have all cleared, but downtown drivers watch for crews clearing. A crash at 4th South and 4th West. It is in the final cleanup stages. At UTA, they move your early mornings, your long days, your big plans. They move purpose, they move you. Plan your trip at rideuta.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Partly cloudy today and 60 degrees for a high with a slight chance of a pop-up shower, mostly in the mountains. 65 tomorrow, 67 on Thursday. Right now, it's sunny and 46 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Well, the man who authorities say tried to storm the White House Correspondents Association dinner with guns and knives has been charged yesterday with attempted assassination of President Trump, as federal authorities suggest the attack disrupted one of the glitziest events that had been planned for several years. Cole Thomas Allen appeared in court yesterday to face federal charges after the encounter, and he's been charged with numerous felonies. That count alone, Holly, the attempted assassination of the president, carries up to life in prison if he is convicted of that one.
I wondered if it might actually carry the death penalty, but maybe not because he didn't assassinate the president.
Right. The death penalty is reserved for crimes where ultimately a death occurred, and,
Okay.
and it's very, very, very much limited to that.
Okay, well, here's ABC News Chief Justice Correspondent Pierre Thomas with the latest details on Allen's actions.
Authorities claim Allen made a reservation at the Washington Hilton Hotel for 3 nights. The FBI says Allen then traveled across country by train, armed with a 12-gauge pump-action shotgun, a .38 caliber pistol, and 3 knives. After arriving in D.C. on Friday, the night before the gala, Allen checked into the hotel where the event would be held, allegedly smuggling the guns and knives into the building undetected. The acting attorney general says agents fired 5 shots at Allen as he stormed a security checkpoint.
We do believe that, as the complaint lays out, that the suspect, that the defendant fired it out of his shotgun, and we know that happened.
Allen, they say, was quickly subdued 1 floor above the ballroom.
And it sounds like from everything we've learned about this incredibly tragic situation that no one was seriously hurt. I mean, it sounds like the agents fired 5 rounds and he fired from a shotgun, but we don't know of any injuries.
So there was an agent who was shot and he was hit in his bulletproof vest.
Right.
And so I don't know if there's bruising and stuff from that.
I'm sure
I suspect that there is.
Yeah, I'm sure you'd feel that.
But you mentioned how quick this is, right? We were talking about the process of getting charges, and this happened, just 3 days ago?
Right.
I mean, it does seem really fast.
Yeah, so one thing I would say is that there was no reason to delay it. I mean, he was apprehended at the scene. Obviously, he's presumed innocent, but he was apprehended at the scene. He's got the gun. There were how many agents? And when you saw the video, people saw him, watched him. So there wasn't any mystery, and I think they just wanted to get him buttoned up and get him into court as soon as possible so that a judge could set bail at no bail. In other words, you're not going anywhere. And they could keep him in custody while they continue to investigate. So the fact that he's been charged with these crimes, including attempted assassination of the president, doesn't mean that he will ultimately face more serious charges. They can always change the charges. Maybe they'll even have a grand jury look at the case and decide what to charge. But right now, they filed charges to keep him in custody.
Okay. So I know that he sent a manifesto to his family shortly before he stormed that ballroom, and we have learned more about those messages sent from Allen to his family.
According to DOJ, Allen allegedly sent an email message to his family, scheduled to be delivered at the time of the shooting, explaining his actions. The government claims the suspect appears to have shared social media posts that were critical of Trump and his administration, including calling for Trump's removal. Officials say he also appears to have shared posts denouncing Trump's policies, including dealing with the war with Iran and increased immigration enforcement.
So what's interesting to me about that is he actually doesn't mention the president by name at all.
Right, but that document that they found, because yesterday, if you recall, we were talking about the fact that he was going to jail for possessing a firearm during
Right.
an event and whatnot. But there was nothing about attempted assassination of the president. But once they found this document and they could put the pieces together, and it doesn't mention Trump by name, but it does talk about what he intends to do, that he's upset at these policies, that he's got these feelings, that he's going to go do something about it. He's sort of almost apologizing to people. They thought, okay, he didn't go there to disrupt a meeting or to shoot a cabinet member. He went to go after the president.
Well, and he said from the top down, right? So,
Right.
We talked yesterday about the line of succession. And in fact, I saw a news article this morning. It was in Reuters, which is not based in the U.S. And they said, what is the line of succession? And so they also detailed this designated survivor thing like they have at the State of the Union address. There was nothing like that for.
They were all there.
Pretty much everybody was there, right? And you can just imagine how chaotic it would be if there were some mass event where the president, the vice president, and a bunch of cabinet members were all taken out at the same time.
It was really interesting to watch this man's sort of implementation of this crime, because he had scoped out the building. He knew this Washington Hilton. He got a room for 3 nights. How he got a shotgun and a .38 caliber handgun.
I'll tell you how. So I have seen posts on social media, because I'm on there all the time, and there was a guy who said, I was in the room next door, and people want to know, how'd you get a gun in? You just take it in your luggage. He said, not at any time was my luggage scanned when I checked in, so I imagine his wasn't scanned either. He went in a couple of days before, knowing that there was going to be a big event there, and security would be heightened, but I have seen multiple reports that it wasn't what people would anticipate for such high-level participants.
Right. A 12-gauge shotgun, unless it's sawed off, doesn't fit in a standard suitcase, however. But I guess you can bring
maybe it's a rolling duffel bag. I don't know.
That's true. That's a good point. I mean, I guess you could get a gun in just about anything. But he just bull rushed the place. I mean, he got there to the door. He knew kind of where he was going. And if you watch, he's a strong, fast-looking young man. He just ran through it, and you could see the agents were just like completely caught off guard, drawing their weapons, not sure what's going on, and he's running through there. And finally, an agent shoots at him 5 times and doesn't seem to hit him, but the guy falls down.
Mm-hmm.
The suspect falls, which I think saved a lot of problems, because he'd hit the next door or the door after that. He clearly had a plan in mind. He was like a halfback running through blockers. I mean, he was going to get to his target. I mean, it was one of those all or nothing. Here I go. I'm running. I've got my gun, and as soon as I see the president, I'm going to take a shot. But there was a perimeter. They call it a containment, so that they would know when somebody breaks that perimeter. And once he got through that, I think the alert was out to everyone.
Oh, sure.
And so I'm sure there were different levels of containment, and he wasn't going to get through all of those.
It's kind of remarkable to think that no one was seriously injured, including the gunman, actually. So to me, that also shows restraint on the part of the Secret Service, is they did what they needed to do to stop him, but without killing him.
Right. Of course, somebody tried to shoot him 5 times. But,
right.
But when somebody's running at that speed, you don't know what's going on. And he fired the shotgun. Unclear what he was shooting at, unless he was just excited and just pulled the trigger or something, just out of a sense of, adrenaline. But you're right. I mean, a lot of damage could have been done. And of course, now people are wondering why we're doing this at the Washington Hilton. Is that really a place that you can secure? Because after all, it's a hotel, and people are there, and you can't just secure every room. So is that a reason to do these things at the White House? I'm sure that the administration is saying, hey, let's build that East Wing.
Well, they are saying that, and they are asking for $400 million of taxpayer funds. And this is, remember, after they already said that it was going to be totally funded by private donations. But I will say this, that I've seen multiple stories saying, even if you could hold it at the ballroom, this event is so large, this new ballroom, as big as it is, wouldn't be able to accommodate this event.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess the Washington Hilton can accommodate a lot. We went to an event the other night at the Grand America. That ballroom there is huge. I mean, that you can put a lot of people in something like that. Every city has multiple venues that can handle big crowds.
Well, in D.C. for sure.
Yeah, and you'd expect that to be even bigger. But anyway, all's well that ends well in that case. The president wasn't under any personal affront. They got him out of there pretty quickly. He seemed to be very calm and cool about it, and actually had a good message to the nation afterwards about, hey, we need to dial it back.
And we're just going to reschedule.
Right. Yeah, and let's still do it.
Okay, so you and I were both at our respective conventions, and one of the things that I noticed on Saturday at the Republican convention is that it was abundantly clear that party leaders are mad at Utah judges, and they are now promoting a non-retention vote for 2 of the Supreme Court justices come November. We're going to talk about that when we come back.
Cars for Kids, KARS, Cars for Kids, 1-877 Cars for Kids, donate your car today. 1-877 Cars for Kids, KARS, Cars for Kids, 1-877 Cars for Kids, donate your car today.
Ready to get rid of that old car? Donate it to Cars for Kids. Call 877 Cars for Kids to speak to a friendly live agent. Donation is super easy, and your car can be picked up as soon as tomorrow. Go to carsforkids.org now or call 877 Cars for Kids to donate your car today.
1-877 Cars for Kids, KARS, Cars for Kids, 1-877 Cars for Kids.
Did you know you can donate real estate too? Go to carsforkids.org. That's cars with a K.
Imagine a world where you can leave the house and take your home Wi-Fi speeds with you. Well, thanks to Xfinity Mobile, it's not just fantasy. Just picture it. You're at your kid's softball practice, streaming the other game in 4K, just like that. At the airport, download a cozy family comedy in a snap. What if the places you had to be felt more like everywhere you wanted to be? That's the magic of Xfinity Mobile. Reliable Wi-Fi and 5G when you need it. Xfinity. Imagine that. Cut your mobile bill in half with 2 lines of unlimited. Visit xfinitymobile.com to learn more. Restrictions apply. Xfinity Internet required. Savings based on promotional rate for 2 lines of Xfinity Mobile Unlimited versus regular rates for 2 lines of T-Mobile Experience More. Verizon Unlimited Plus and AT&T Starter as of 2/10/26. Taxes, fees extra after promo. Regular rates apply. Cut your mobile bill in half. Visit xfinitymobile.com. Xfinity. Imagine that.
Kitchen and bath transformations start with AMC Building Materials. AMC Building Materials is a large kitchen cabinet and countertop supplier serving both wholesale and retail customers. AMC offers factory direct pricing on all interior remodeling materials, giving you exceptional value without sacrificing quality. Most standard items are available for quick payment and pickup right away. AMC Building Materials provides professional service, free design, and free on-site measurements, along with expert installation by top AMC professionals. From bold kitchen designs to beautiful functional bathrooms, AMC delivers outstanding value with styles you'll love. And best of all, most projects can be completed within just 10 days. Come experience beauty you can see, quality you can feel, and service you can trust. Get directions to the new AMC Building Materials showroom at 3678 South 700 West today and schedule your free estimate. Visit amckitchenslc.org. That's amckitchenslc.org.
Every day here in Utah, people turn to KSL News Radio for one simple reason: trust. Trust for our reporters, hosts, our coverage, and trust in the businesses heard right here. I've met so many of our listeners over the years, and they'll tell you KSL is part of their daily routine, in the car, at work, at home. And when they hear your business here, it carries the weight of that trust. It isn't just another ad. It's a recommendation coming from a reliable source. When you advertise on KSL News Radio, you reach a loyal, highly engaged audience who listens intentionally. They show up for breaking news, accurate information, and meaningful conversations. And because of that connection, they respond. And when you pair our on-air credibility with digital tools like display advertising, social media, streaming audio, search, geo-targeting, and retargeting, you get a full funnel strategy that works and reaches the right people at the right time. Get marketing that truly moves the needle. Partner with the voice Utah trusts. KSL. Learn more at kslnewsradio.com/advertise.
Any Hour Services can help unclog any drain in your house, whether you have a backup, a clog, or a slow drain you want fixed. Call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
Stolen Voices of Dole Valley, a gripping new 9-part investigative podcast about a serial killer you've probably never heard of, Warren Forrest. A sadistic predator who prowled the Pacific Northwest in the early 70s. He hid behind the deeds of Ted Bundy, and he's only been convicted of 2 murders, but is suspected of many more. Since the release of Stolen Voices of Dole Valley, a witness identified in the podcast could lead investigators to the remains of Jamie Grissom.
He ran into the woods. He said he stumbled. As he fell down, he looks up and sees the body of a young woman.
And now the FBI is testing forensic evidence that had been collecting dust for decades. This cold case is now red hot. Binge the entire season of Stolen Voices of Dole Valley right now, wherever you get your podcasts. And make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on the latest breaking news.
Inside Sources.
Well, Saturday, Holly, while I was at the Democratic convention in Jordan High School, you were at the Republican convention at Utah Valley, and we talked about some of the people that were voted on. We talked about how the delegates got to vote on, and so we have candidates that will be on the ballot for the primary
in June.
Why couldn't I think of that?
It's okay.
What we didn't talk about was some conversation that came up during the convention that seemed to be pretty agitated regarding Utah judges.
I think I talked about it a little bit yesterday when we were kind of doing a summary, but the time goes so quickly. But it was one of the things that I was kind of disappointed in, to be honest, because you had people from the main podium, and I'm meaning like the state Republican Party chair and Congressman Burgess Owens, but there were others as well who were really mad at Utah judges. And I think the redistricting is like the issue right now that they're really mad about. But their language is so pointed. Rather than saying something like, hey, we acknowledge that there's a separation of powers and we're disappointed in this ruling and we're going to continue to fight the way we can fight it. They're not. They're saying, get rid of these judges. In fact, I have a quote. So this is from Party Chair Rob Axson. He said, we're going to have 2 Supreme Court judges who will have retention votes this coming November. Vote no. These 2 people who ignore the Constitution have zero business being in the robe. They have zero business making decisions for us. And he says, go find a job in the private sector. We don't want you anymore.
I mean, that's just
Ouch.
That's language that's really problematic to me as an attorney. And I do know these justices, not on a particularly personal level, but I'll tell you this about judges in Utah today. And these 2 are perfect examples. They were appointed by a Republican governor. These 2 were both appointed by Spencer Cogg.
Yep.
They were approved and confirmed by a Republican Senate. And so it's not like they were, Obama appointments or Biden appointments or Trump appointments. This is on the state level, all Republican governor appointees, all Republican Senate confirmation appointees. So it's not like, I mean, I don't know what they expect that they're going to get if they get rid of these 2 judges, because we're going to go through the same process and get somebody else, and you don't know. And by the way, and I guess I need to dial it back here in a minute. Judges are not proactive. They don't say, "Hey, we need to do something about this redistricting. We need to change it." They have a case brought before them. In this case, it was brought by a number of groups who were concerned about the gerrymandering that had occurred in this state, which, by the way, was not what the citizens wanted when they voted for Prop 4 in 2018. The judges looked at that and said, it's not what the citizens wanted when they voted on Prop 4 in 2018. It's not like the judges decided, hey, we need to redistrict the state. It was a lawsuit filed in response to a citizen initiative where the citizens said we need to do this.
And they're looking, this is my opinion too, they're looking at the Utah Constitution and they're saying this is what the Constitution says. So yes, there have been efforts to change the Utah Constitution. So far, those efforts have failed. But it feels to me like that's the appropriate venue, right? If you've got a problem with the Constitution, you've got to change the Constitution rather than go attack the judiciary. So when you say they need to go find a different job, they have no right to be in those robes. I heard that also from Representative Burgess Owens, who stood up there, and he didn't name the Supreme Court justices by name like Rob Axson did, but he named Diana Gibson by name and basically said the same thing. She has no right to wear those robes. And that's, I mean, come on, y'all.
That's pretty offensive to me personally, just as an attorney, because I know how judges sacrifice to become a judge. I mean, these 3 women that we're talking about, Diana Hagan, Jill Pullman, Diana Gibson, if they were in the private sector, they would be making far more than they're making as judges in the state of Utah. But they chose to serve the people. They chose to take a position where they could be under attack. They chose to do something where they would take a cut in pay so that they could serve the public. And so to belittle them and to go after them is just the height of hypocrisy. I mean, it's what we do. It's the third branch of government. And if you don't like it, change the Constitution. But what I think the legislature is hung up on a singular provision which they think gives them the complete authority to schedule or to time, manner, and place of elections, that they get to decide the districting and whatnot. And I don't think it was an easy decision for the judges. I don't think they looked at it and said, well, it's a straight up thing. But they look at the Utah Constitution, they look at the ballot initiative, they look at the case that's before them, and they say, you know what, legislature, you did it wrong. Go do it again right. And the legislature, instead of doing it right, continues to attack the messenger. Let's go after the judges. They're appealing everything the judges are doing. Now they're attacking the judges personally. Just go do it right. Get another ballot initiative, or go try to change the Constitution, or redistrict in a way that's fair and consistent with Prop 4.
They did try to change it. Remember, they launched their own ballot initiative that would have repealed Proposition 4, but while they had enough signatures, there were enough people who took their name off the petition that they fell below the threshold, and so that won't be on the ballot in November. But one of the things that's interesting and I think kind of sad to me is it feels like I heard a lot of messages on Saturday about attacking citizens' initiatives, and especially towards redistricting. But they were trying to do the very same thing, using a citizens' initiative to undo this. And I think that is, I agree with you, that's probably the right way to go about it. It's just, I feel like, I think both parties do this, although in a Republican-dominated state, I do see it more on the Republican side in Utah, but of course on the Democratic side, other places. But I think sometimes we forget that something we insist on now while we have the power could come back to bite us when we don't have the power anymore.
Yeah.
And I think you see that on the national level for sure, because certainly there's been attacks on the U.S. Supreme Court and calling people stupid and that they're making really bad decisions, and maybe we should change the courts in these ways. And maybe we should, in fact, nuke the filibuster. I just think it's important for people of both parties to remember that once you change the rules to benefit yourself, when you're no longer in power, those same rules can be used against you.
Yeah. A year ago, about right now, I argued a case before the Utah Supreme Court, and I absolutely disagree with their ruling. I lost. I lost, and I thought, no way should I lose. No way should I have lost. But that's just what they did. They made that decision, and they're the Supreme Court, and they know more than I do. They certainly know more than, I won't name any particular Republicans, but those that are calling them out. I mean, they looked at the Constitution and they said, Skordas, you're wrong. And here's how the ruling should be on this case. And I had one at the trial court level, and the state appealed it, and they said, the judge did it wrong. And it was devastating to me. But you know what? I lose at the Supreme Court. I win at the Supreme Court. I lose in front of juries. I win in front of juries. That's the system. That's what you do. And if you don't like it, appeal it. Don't fire the messenger. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, it's just so problematic for me personally, because these judges, they're appointed for a reason, so that they don't have to answer to the winds of politics. They don't have to make decisions based on what's going to be popular in the media the next day. They do things based on what they consider to be the law, and they respond to issues that are brought before them. Look at the issue, look at the law, look at the precedents, and say, what should the ruling be? And that's what they do. And you know what? They usually get it right.
So I will say this, that Utah Supreme Court justices are voted on whether they should be retained every decade. However, the newest members of the courts, any of the courts, receive a retention vote at the first general election held more than 3 years after the judge was appointed. So the two Supreme Court justices in question were appointed in 2022. And so 3 years plus the next general election. So that is this fall for retention for them. But when judges come up, they are retained more than 80% of the time. And sometimes I think it's higher than that.
Oh, yeah. I can only think of a couple that weren't. And rightfully so. I mean, people call me all the time and say, "Hey, I'm going to vote on these judges. What do you think?" And I'll go through the list of names and say, "They're great. They're great. They're great." I mean,
Actually, I have to rephrase that. They're retained almost all the time with 80+% of the vote.
Yeah, I knew what you meant. Right.
Yeah,
They're retained about 98% of the time.
And they only need 50% plus one, right, to be a simple majority to be retained their seat on the bench. But I expect to see coordinated attacks on not retaining these judges come November.
I expect that the voters will do what they've done with Prop 4 and others and say, you know what, legislature, you're wrong. Let's keep these judges. Let's keep these justices. They're great. They're great. And let's hope that the voters get it right as well. Okay, I'll get off my box on that. When we come back, this kind of hits close to home, but aging brings its own worries. But while a lot of people who are aging have financial strain, sometimes it's even harder if you get into what we call the gap. We'll talk about what that means. You taught me about that earlier when we come back after this.
10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. Our top story this hour, there has been a second deadly fall in Zion National Park. Officials are asking hikers to be aware and prepare as tourism picks up this spring. The Utah Film Commission has approved 5 new productions in the state, all of which will qualify for the state's film incentives. The Deseret News reports they have a combined total estimated economic impact of $69.5 million and will create 1,000 jobs across 6 counties. Those projects include Marshalls, a spin-off of Yellowstone, a Hallmark movie, Food Network series, and others. Our top national story this hour, prosecutors are accusing a University of South Florida student of killing 2 roommates and then using artificial intelligence to help cover up the crime. They're pointing to searches the suspect made, asking AI to describe how to hide bodies. Margaret Mitchell is a former Google staffer and now a researcher and ethics scientist.
There's a ton of reasons why people might be asking questions that in hindsight are problematic, but at the time to address would require potentially inappropriate censorship, surveillance. You know, these are the sort of tensions that companies are working with.
The suspect is scheduled to make a court appearance today. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 88 points at this hour. We're at 49,256. Coming up, warmer temperatures ahead. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:32.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
At Uline, the prevailing opinion is, if you don't live it, you don't believe it. The people at Uline believe in hard work, and they live it by being there 24/7 to answer your call, having 41,000 items in stock, and offering same-day shipping from 12 locations across North America. Business owners, sellers, buyers, shippers, and packers believe it. Uline is the hard-working, dependable source for your shipping and industrial supplies. Visit uline.com.
Trying to make sense of the markets? Looking to diversify out of all the craziness? Thinking about tangible assets like precious metals? Listen to The Gold Show with Alan Johnson right here on KSL at 3 p.m. Sunday afternoons. Stay up to date on retirement trends, how the IRA rollover process works, and why investors are turning to physical gold. Alan is a national talk show host with decades of experience in the markets. Tune in for Alan's Insights and The Gold Show this Sunday afternoon at 3.
At Liberty Mutual, we love helping people with things like customizing car insurance, just like how we customize a song for you. Catered country tune. Liberty Mutual, saving you bucks by protecting your truck. 'Cause 30 told me to only pay for what I need. Thank you, Limu. I'll always trust in Limu with Liberty, 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 Liberty.
Tired of hearing scary radio ads about the IRS? Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000 or $500,000, we have a solution. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS with zero risk to you. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with a BBB. End your tax nightmare today by visiting TRA.com or call 800-583-6681. That's 800-583-6681.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. Earn 4.24% on savings at UCCU.com. And here's Ricky Meese.
All clear on your Valley freeways, and if you're traveling any of the main secondaries, no problems reported there. Higher elevations, clear roads, nice and sunny, a beautiful day for a drive. At Olson's Greenhouse, gardening brings families together. Hands in the soil, time well spent. Add fresh flowers to porches, patios, beds, or containers. Learn more at OGG.com. That's OGG.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
60 today for a high, 65 tomorrow, and the temperatures keep going up. We get into the 70s through the weekend. Right now it's 48 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Well, I have been thinking and talking a lot about retirement with my husband. He turns 65 this year. He's not anticipating that he's going to retire until maybe age 70-ish. But we're starting to talk about it, and it feels weird and kind of uncomfortable, to be honest. So when I saw this article about retirement, old age, and the cost of an adequate life, of course I had to read it. And of course it was written by our friend Lois Collins. But she talked about a gap, and the gap is between you make a little bit too much to fall under the federal poverty line, but you don't really make enough to live comfortably, right, in retirement. And I know when we talked with Shane Stewart, who's DMBA financial planner, one of the things he told us is so many people, the number one fear he hears is that people will not have enough money to retire, and they're just really afraid of that. So I wanted to talk to Lois today about what she found about this gap.
So the gap index, it's called the Elder Index, and you can find it, by the way, it's fun to play with. It's at elderindex.org. Was put together by the University of Massachusetts, Boston. So UMass Boston did this complete analysis, and the thing that's so great about it is it's county by county by county.
Wow.
And metro areas. So you can look up Salt Lake County, or you can look up Salt Lake Murray Metro, and it's really a cool tool, because what they've done is they've looked at the cost of housing, health care, transportation, food, and miscellaneous. And miscellaneous includes things like clothing, stuff that you've got to have, but
Sure.
the kind of what's the average amount. And then they update it completely every 3 years, but they do the Consumer Price Index adjustment annually. So these numbers, by the way, are going to be low, because this was before like the war in Iraq and in Iran and inflation and all of these things. But I decided to look to see what was happening in Salt Lake County, just as an example. And if you're a couple in good health, and all of these numbers that I'm going to give you assume good health, you don't have a mortgage, you're going to need $38,928 to retire comfortably. You're going to need
annually.
$3,100. Yeah, you're going to need $3,102 a month. And actually, I gave you the wrong number. That was the national number. It's $3,102 a month, or $37,224. And that's if you don't have a mortgage. If you have a mortgage, you're going to need considerably more. You're going to need $4,378 a month, $52,536 a year. And if you're a renter, ouch. It's $3,967 a month, $47,000 a year. So the trick is that the poverty line is set. It's just set by the size of your household and whether you're in the 48 contiguous United States or D.C. There's a little bit of an adjustment up for Alaska and Hawaii. But if you're in those 48 states or D.C., it's low. It's like $1,803 a month for a couple is the poverty line, and that's $21,000. So you can see just from the numbers I gave you that there's a big gap, and there are millions and millions of people who fall in that gap. And what that means is that, like you said, you don't qualify for most of the programs that are tied to the federal poverty line. regardless of where you live. It's the same poverty line, whether you're in an expensive place or a cheap place. And you don't make enough to have a bare bones adequate life.
Yeah.
It seems like just from the numbers you're reading us, Lois, that if you are relying solely on your Social Security and you don't have a retirement, you're going to be pretty close to that gap line for a lot of people.
You're going to be in the gap line,
right?
Unless you were super well paid when you were
right. You could, because a lot of people. I mean, we all get into start working and think Social Security is going to take care of us. When I'm turned 67, which I'm past now, I'll be fine. I can retire. I can do whatever I want. But some of us have been fortunate enough to have worked for companies and agencies that have a retirement, but other people don't, and they're going to find out that Social Security isn't going to get them out of that gap area.
1 in 4 couples are below that bare bones adequate level. And among renters, it's among single people, it's 22% that are below the poverty line and 32% in the gap.
Wow.
So you're talking more than half of people if you're not a couple, because there's that, couples, there's more.
I wanted to tee up for our listeners that our next segment, we want to take calls and texts about your best retirement advice, especially for people who are getting close to retirement, not maybe in their 20s. So you can call us, it's 801-575-TALK, or text us at 57500. And then our next segment, we're going to talk about that some more. But Lois, so what are the options for people who do find themselves in this gap? Because to me, looking at that sounds scary.
It is scary. You can do a couple of things. You can maybe move, which is also scary, by the way, because you leave behind your social networks and the life that you had. There are places that are cheaper. The numbers that I gave were for Salt Lake County. There are places that are quite a bit cheaper, especially for housing. So you can do that. You can make decisions about food and transportation based on what you have. People live in the gap. They make adjustments. They do less. They don't go to movies. They don't go and actually movies are not included in the bare bones thing, but you downsize your life to meet what you can afford. But if you're young enough to start really planning and thinking about it, think about the gap, because what are you going to need to retire? And these numbers are all what it costs somebody 65 and older. So it's a totally different thing for, a family of 4 or a young family or whatever. But older people, this is a lot of people who don't have enough, but they have too much.
Yeah. It's interesting to me. Sorry. Yeah. It's interesting to me that these are people in good health at 65. My brother-in-law just passed away, and his widow, my sister-in-law, is trying to figure out finances, and they have always been on the lower income side. She realized they were paying $1,000 a month out of pocket for his medications.
Yeah, no,
$1,000 a month.
And this, by the way, does not include that. This number does not include the excessive. If you're in poor health, the numbers go up amazingly high. If you're in excellent health, they drop a little bit. The difference between good and excellent is not significant, but between good and poor health, it's huge.
Mm-hmm. Is it possible, Lois, that people who are in this gap area are actually worse off in some respects than people who are at the poverty level because they don't qualify for some of the benefits?
Probably to some degree. I honestly think that the people that it would be most discouraging for would be the people who are like $5 above qualifying for
so
something.
Close, right?
Right.
You're so close, but you're not quite there. And what do you do? And I do think that people may have to make some decisions based on that. But it's like the fact that the federal poverty line doesn't take in location or costs or anything is really interesting to me too, because it obviously costs a lot more to live in Seattle than it costs to live in, I don't know,
Louisiana.
Yeah, somewhere in New Mexico maybe,
yeah.
or there are differences. But it is true, and even nobody's living a great life below the poverty line, even with assistance. It's not giving you enough to boost you up so that you would not be in the gap, for sure, even if you've got like food stamps and some medical help.
Do you find that, or does what you're looking at, Lois, give you the impression that people who are in this 22% of poverty level or 32% of gap level just didn't plan or just didn't get the right education. And I don't mean blaming anyone, but I mean, how is it that we have so many people who are in that really tough area?
I think part of it is where you live, the jobs available where you live, your family circumstance. We're a transplant family. Boy, if you want a good time that cuts into your savings, have a transplant. It's great. People have all sorts of circumstances, and you can't. I'm sort of a judge-free zone. I have no idea how people got in the gap or why they couldn't climb out of the gap. I don't know, because it would be different for every family.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. That was Lois Collins with the Deseret News. And speaking of retirement, like I mentioned, we want to hear from you. What are your top tips for preparing for retirement, especially if you're, maybe 50s or 60s like me? Call us at 801-575-TALK or text us at 57500, and we will be right back.
I was looking at my weight the other day and trying to find out how well I had been doing on this soda diet. And it works out that I've lost weight virtually every day, certainly every week. I've been on the diet for, tomorrow will mark my 4-week anniversary. It's been constant. It's been consistent. I'm starting to have people notice it. My wife notices it. Certainly my belt notices it as I put my pants on every day. And I've really found that this has been a successful program. I've never dieted. I'm 68 years old, and I've never been on a diet except what I thought I could do by myself. And I learned recently that I couldn't do it by myself. So I contacted SOTA, S-O-T-A, Diet Nutrition, went on SOTADietNutrition.com. They hooked me up with a coach. They hooked me up with a food program. I said, I don't want to take any pills. They said, we don't do pills. I said, I don't want to do injections. We don't do injections. It's just food. And that's what it's been. I've worked my program around theirs, got my wife on board, and it's worked out really well for me. This is something I want to continue. I want to continue for a while. And SOTA says, join us for a short time to have results that last a lifetime. That's my plan.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit KSLNewsRadio.com or text the word inbox to 57500. That's inbox to 57500.
Attention, RV owners or RV wannabe owners. It's the used RV blowout sale. RVs from all over the Intermountain West have been sent to the Layton Hills Mall for this RV liquidation event. Repos, buybacks, rental returns, and trade-ins. Blowout pricing. Every RV has been inspected and serviced and ready to go. Free admission, free parking. Dealers welcome. It's the used RV blowout sale. This Wednesday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to dusk. Go to UtahRVEvent.com. Sponsored by Paris RV. Paris RV is your locally owned, family-run RV dealership. We strive hard to find the very best RVs for the price. With 4 locations, over 1,000 RVs in stock, 42 service bays, and 4 super parts stores. We're sure to help take your family on the best RV vacation. Check out our perfect family bunkhouse trailer, the 26BH. That sleeps 9 for $19,995 or $227 a month. Zero down. Life is short. Enjoy it. North Murray, South Murray, Payson, and Pocatello. ParisRV.com.
If your water heater's over 10 to 15 years old, congratulations. You've beat the average. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and I love hearing stories of people having water heaters that are really old and they're still doing their job. Unfortunately, most of us won't be that lucky. And when water heaters fail, it's usually in spectacularly inconvenient fashion. Whether it's an unexpected cold shower when we're already running late for work, or worse yet, coming home to a flooded basement, it's never fun. If you'd like to look into replacing your water heater before it fails, Any Hour Services is having a sale for any homeowners listening. Whether you're looking for a new tanked water heater or you want to see what upgrading to a tankless would cost, the plumbers at Any Hour Services can show you what options are available. And right now, you can save $400 on a tanked water heater or $1,200 on a tankless. If you think you might be interested, call Any Hour Services today and schedule your free estimate. 801-443-7400. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Support comes from Amazon Business. Free your team from time-consuming procurement tasks. Discover smart business buying where unmatched selection meets AI-driven tools to simplify complex processes so you can focus on what matters most. Learn more at amazonbusiness.com.
Save $10 on a pair of Bosch Focus wiper blades. Our professional parts people will even install them for free at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly
Auto Parts.
Get $1,000 in free survival gear for a limited time. You heard that right. Right now, when you order the powerful Grid Doctor 3300 solar generator from MyPatriotSupply.com, we'll send you over $1,000 in life-saving preparedness supplies, including a 4-week survival food kit, water filtration system, an off-grid cook stove, and much more, absolutely free. This offer won't last long, so get your generator and free survival gear now at MyPatriotSupply.com. That's MyPatriotSupply.com.
Join Mike Stevens of Capital Wealth Advisors for Retire Right Radio, Saturdays at 5 a.m. and 9 p.m. That's Retire Right Radio with Mike Stevens, Saturdays at 5 a.m. and 9 p.m.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel neglected or unloved? If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
The new Inside Sources.
You know, I think every age and stage has different things that you focus on. And even though I still have adult kids who live at home, I'm starting to think about retirement. Yeah. It's a long way off, it feels like, but certainly within the realm of the foreseeable future, maybe another decade or so. But it's interesting because there's a lot of things that feel like you need to have in place to retire. And I mentioned in the last segment that Shane Stewart has told us, the DMBA financial planner, that the number one fear that people have is not having enough money in retirement, and that usually that they're wrong about that. Although we just talked to Lois about the number of people who are aging in poverty, right? And in that gap. And it was interesting because just last week, and it's timely, just last week, our women's group in our local church congregation, we had a meeting on Thursday night. And we had an attorney come in and talk to us about wills and trusts because people in the area is like, we want to know about that. So I'm going to ask you about that in a minute. We also talked about emergency preparedness, a la 72-hour kits. But we also talked about an emergency binder. And that's something like if you were, for example, had to be evacuated from your house, that's like one thing that you can grab, and you'd have your account information, your passwords, those types of things. I also think it's important if you pass away to have that information. And it became important in our family when a couple of years ago I had this really bad GI bleed, and I ended up in ICU. And I realized that if I died, my husband and my kids would just be up a creek without a paddle, because there's none of that information is written down. I don't have my passwords in a place where my husband could go find them and, access. I'm the one who pays the bills, so he hasn't tracked that process. And so it's really gotten me thinking, and here I am 2 years later and I haven't done anything.
I'm an attorney, and you would think I would write a will.
Yes.
And my wife finally, and she's an attorney, and finally she said, we don't have a will, we don't have anything. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. You die. People think, if you die, it'll all go to the state. We may talk about that in a minute too, because it doesn't. But we did finally set up a trust, and we just put everything in the trust and thought, you know what? And I learned a valuable lesson because my own parents died about 3 or 4 years ago, and they had done that, and it made our lives so much easier.
Oh, yeah.
Because we didn't have to go through probate. I mean, we ended up doing probate because one of their accounts required us to, which was silly. But it was easy because everything was set up.
Yeah.
Even the probate judge was like, "What are you doing here?" And signed it off, and it was really easy. But man, having them manage their estate, I couldn't have thanked them enough for the way that they did that, and because it was for us. I mean, they didn't help them. It helped us, and it made our lives so much easier. And so my wife and I thought, we're going to do the same thing, but we had an attorney help us do it.
Well, you are an attorney. So this is the shoemaker that has the shoemaker's kids that have no shoes.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So just as I understand it with the wills, you can write your own and have it notarized, but you could even potentially write it on a piece of paper and say, hey, I'm headed out of the country. Here's what I want to have happen. Is that true?
Yeah, to some extent. I mean, it's better. It certainly has more legitimacy if you have people witness it or you have it notarized, you do certain things. And you also have to attest that this is what you're doing. I mean, it's not like, hey, I like my kids to have my pickup truck. What does that mean? But you can say, if I pass, and again, get witnesses, get people to sign it so that they can confirm that it was your intent at the time, instead of just something you wrote on a napkin or that somebody else wrote.
Sure.
And so, and even I even tell people, tell your witnesses, this is my will. This is what I want to happen with my estate. So that if they get called to court and they say, well, what did Greg want? Well, he said this is what he intended to be his will, and this is what he wanted to happen with respect to his kids. I think people overthink it, but I also think it's better. I mean, you can go online these days and get will forms and just fill in the blanks, and then it's real clear what you're intending because it says last will and testament right on the top,
right,
or trust or whatever.
I think living wills are important too, right? And that's like what you want to have happen if you're medically incapable. If you're incapable of making a medical decision, I guess I should say.
Right.
We do have some comments, and this is a good one from one of our listeners. Shared Google Sheets for passwords is a lifesaver. Good idea, right? My husband and I do a lot of stuff on Google Docs. So we also had on Facebook, both for KSL News Radio and my own personal Facebook page, I asked about this, and there were a couple of people said, pay off your mortgage and plan to live there the rest of your life. I mean, we're thinking of downsizing and using the equity in our home. But we have a couple people also who have said, be prepared for extreme boredom. And I will say that there are at least 3 different comments from different listeners. One says, be prepared. One says, prepare for being lonely and bored. If you don't have a hobby that takes up a couple of hours or a week or a day, have calendar planned items to be like things that you're already looking forward to and extra money set aside to enjoy retirement, not just barely survive. And then on my own Facebook page, one of my followers says, my neighbor who's retired said the biggest mistake people make is to retire as early as they can, and then they are bored out of their minds.
When I was running for political office, we would do these candidate speeches at the local senior centers.
Yeah.
Salt Lake County, because it was, I don't recall going out of Salt Lake County, maybe a couple times, and I'm sure that they're everywhere, but those senior centers were I was really impressed with what they were doing there. It was a meal. It was a group of people.
Yeah.
It was like,
activities.
And it wasn't just some corny thing. I mean, it was, and they were engaged. I mean, they would talk to us as candidates. They were smart, intelligent. And I thought, I'm never going to be too proud to go to something like that when I'm old enough to, maybe I am now, that you could go to something like that and just engage with other people and be involved. Because boy, when you start losing when you stop thinking and planning and organizing, you start losing that intellectual ability to do those things.
And I again, along those same lines, 2 other of my friends said, decide what retirement life will be before you retire. There's a lot of change, and if if it becomes abrupt and your whole life is just upended, then that's no good. And another friend said, have something to retire to, not just to retire from, right? And I appreciate those ideas. And I will tell you, my number 2 fear is not having enough money. My number 1 fear is that my husband will die before we have a chance to retire together.
I was going to say the same thing. My number 1 fear is that we do all this planning and one of us dies.
Because that has happened.
My whole idea with retirement is to spend it with Rebecca,
exactly. Yeah.
And just live happily ever after. And I think hers is too, although she makes me sign these living wills every once in a while to remind me that she's in charge. But I mean, it's people don't think about it. Right now I'm thinking to myself, I own 2 safes. I have a gun safe and a coin safe.
Yeah.
My wife has no idea what the combination of those are.
That's a problem.
I need to get those out and give them to her someday so she's not searching through documents like we had to do in my parents' side. That was one thing that was a problem. It was like, where are the bank accounts? We found it all, but it was a little bit dicey trying to find those.
Exactly. So one of the things I've written about is Swedish death cleaning. Have you heard of that?
No.
It's really an interesting concept, and it was started and basically coined by somebody who lives in Sweden, and they talked about giving away your belongings while you're still alive and downsizing, right? It's not the minimalist idea of, only stay with, 6 books or whatever it is. But it really is the idea of when you pass away, your kids and your grandkids, they don't want your junk. And to them, for most of your stuff is junk. And I'm dealing with that with my parents right now, bless their hearts. I know they're not listening. But they're in their 80s and they live in a 4-bedroom home. It is just jam-packed with stuff that they've collected over a lifetime. I totally appreciate that. But when we talk to them about downsizing, they literally say things like, I can't get rid of my stuff. I can't do it.
Oh, and it broke my heart. But when we cleaned up my parents' house, I brought 3 dumpsters in. I'd fill it, and I thought if my parents were watching me do this, they would be really upset.
Well, hopefully they had no more emotional attachment to it after they passed away.
They just and I thought how sad that they just kept all this stuff and it made our lives difficult, and it wasn't stuff that they were using.
And even if you do use it, right? Like there's emotional attachment to photographs or memorabilia that you've collected, or things that have a specific memory associated, and so then it feels like a betrayal, an emotional betrayal almost.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for a really fascinating conversation.
Yeah, and thanks to our listeners for joining in and telling us what they think. Hey, we're studying a new poll that came out in Salt Lake County that 72% of Salt Lake residents say leaders have not taken enough action to create affordable housing. We'll talk about what the poll results are when we come back.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Cameron Elliott. KSL's top story this hour. We've got breaking news here. We're getting word that a man named Chadwick Klutz, who worked as a signature gatherer for a recent political petition effort, has been charged with multiple counts of forgery after an investigation by the Uinta County Clerk Auditor found that over 100 signatures he had reported collecting had been potentially fraudulent. We're going to have more details on that story as they become available. A second deadly fall has happened in Zion National Park while the busy season picks up. KSL News Radio's Brianna Willis reports.
The second fall happened in the Spry Canyon area last Wednesday. Washington County Sheriff's Office Sergeant Jacob Paul says the man is from California and was rock scrambling by himself when they believe he fell from a short distance. Paul says for those wanting to be outdoors, bring water, bring others, and in a remote area have an SOS device.
If you do have a situation like that, you've got a beacon that you can activate that'll send a response to your location.
Then on Sunday, a woman fell 15 feet off a trail in Ivins. Officers says she was with others who immediately called for help. She was airlifted out and likely has a punctured lung. Brianna Willis, KSL News Radio.
Apple and Google are stepping down, dropping their lawsuits against Utah's newest tech law. KSL News Radio's Alexandria Bonilla reports.
The law in question is the App Store Accountability Act. It was first introduced in 2025, but has since been amended. The act requires app stores to verify users' ages and request parental consent before downloading an app, agreeing to terms of service, or making an in-app purchase. But the law cannot be enforced by a government entity. It just allows private lawsuits. Apple and Google says that's all they needed to hear, and they're not really worried. Utah lawmakers say they're satisfied with the new law. Alexandria Bonilla, KSL News Radio.
Taking a look at your money at this moment, the Dow Jones is up 18 points. The S&P 500 is down 49. That's just over 0.5%. And the NASDAQ is down 295. That's a little over 1.2%. Coming up, walking up to warmer weather. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:02.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Why'd I go to the doctor? Working on the farm, my heart kept skipping a beat. I didn't think much of it, but my daughters made me get checked out. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit notimetowait.com. Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance tech at a university, he knows ordering from multiple suppliers takes time away from keeping their arena up and running. That's why he counts on Grainger to get everything he needs, from lighting and HVAC parts to plumbing supplies, all in one place. And with fast, dependable delivery, he's stocked and ready for the next tip-off. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Cracked glass. If you drive, you've likely taken a hit.
It's getting to be a bigger problem every year. Rock hits right here.
But when that crack might have been prevented,
I saw the mud flaps all but worn off.
Does the law protect you?
They bank on the fact that no one's going to pursue them.
Could you pull this person over?
Yeah. Yeah, I could.
I'll investigate why you could still be paying for that repair and what it takes to get rock chip justice. Tonight at 10 on KSL.
Email from school about the incident today.
Scary.
Tell me about it. Did you have any idea that was going on?
None. I mean, you saw Derek at the game last night, too. Did you have a clue?
No, but you know, teachers like me, parents, we don't always know as much as you guys do. Kids hear first about what's going on with other kids.
Half the time, it's rumors.
It can be hard to tell sometimes, but if you're ever concerned about a friend who's having trouble with alcohol, prescription drugs, bullying, violence, anything, you need to tell an adult. Mom or me, a teacher, coach, school counselor, someone you know and trust.
Dad, no kid is gonna tell an adult about that kind of stuff.
I get it, but if we don't know, we can't help. Speaking up about a problem, that's what helping a friend is all about.
For more information, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. Build smart, save big with construction loans at UCCU. Here's Ricky Meese.
It is a delay-free drive on all the Valley freeways, but not crash-free. We do have an accident in West Valley City, eastbound SR 201 at 5600 West. All vehicles, and there are several of them, are out of traffic on the right. The Soldier Hollow Classic Sheepdog Championship and Festival, May 22nd through 25th, Memorial Weekend. 4 days of fun, competition, and demos presented by Purina Pro Plan. Visit soldierhollowclassic.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
We're going to be looking at temperatures in the 60s this week, climbing from a high of 60 today to 67 by Thursday and up to 79 by Sunday. Right now, though, it's 50 degrees and partly cloudy downtown. I'm Cameron Elliott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
So this was a brand new news story out this morning by our friends over at the Salt Lake Tribune, but they have some poll numbers that are super, super interesting to me. In fact, I used one of their numbers in my number of the day in Utah Policy. What they wanted to do, and this is commissioned by a Salt Lake City nonprofit called Wasatch Advocates for Livable Communities. They wanted to talk about how people in Salt Lake City feel about housing. 92% of registered voters in the city said that they had some level of anxiety over spiraling costs and the lack of available housing. Nearly 75% said they were extremely or very concerned.
Those are surprising numbers. I mean, a poll talking about rising housing costs, and Salt Lake City, I think, is probably going to have higher numbers than the rest of the state because of what we've seen here, especially anywhere along the Wasatch Front would be the same thing. But we're pricing people out of housing. We're doing it at a rate in this state and this area that's almost inexcusable. And I think people are concerned that Salt Lake City, some of our leaders are just not doing enough to take any of these things into account. So the young people and even middle-aged people who really think they need to get a house can't do it.
Yeah. So again, it's interesting. There's a lot of public support. I think it's 72% say Salt Lake leaders have not taken sufficient action to create affordable housing. Although I have to say, I wonder how much more they can do. But the findings from this poll say nearly 3/4 support allowing homes on smaller lots. That's a huge issue where I live, which is not Salt Lake City. That 63% support permitting duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes in residential neighborhoods. And just over half support easing parking requirements to be able to do more infill housing.
We've talked to some leaders. I remember we talked to a leader in Ogden some time ago about the fact that some jurisdictions are helping people with a down payment. It's sort of like an interest-free loan. We'll give you $10,000 towards something. I mean, things like that make a lot of sense. I think the government can do a lot with housing. And I mean, I don't need to talk about politics at all, but you think about the money that we're spending on other things right now that could be help to put people into better housing. And interest rates are still a problem, but not a significant problem, I think. I mean, it's easy for me to say because I don't have a mortgage, but at least we're not double digits like when I bought my first house. I mean, who was it? We had somebody here the other day was talking to us.
Russell Fawcett.
Yeah, Russell Fawcett from the Stern team said that the interest rates are down close to that 6% level, which I think is pretty good if you can get it. And, of course, you can always wait and see if they go down further and refinance. But it's not a bad time to buy a house, except that the housing cost itself is pretty bad. I mean, the house values here, I think on the Wasatch Front, is something like $600,000 for
the median
home.
Yeah. So one of the things when we talk about housing affordability is also availability, and that's the issue I think that we are really running into across the state. So we've talked about studies that show we're down hundreds of thousands of homes that we'll need in the next 50 years.
Right.
But we're 35,000 starter homes short. This is the Governor Cox's goal, right, to get 35,000 starter homes by 2030, I think, which is less than 4 years away. So that's one of the issues is you have this, it's multi-pronged, right? So you have developers who say, look, we've done, we can build, but then we get these, not in my backyard, city councils that are saying, okay, well, you can build and we've permitted it, but you can only do half-acre lots or you can do a third-acre lots, but you can't do multifamily dwellings, right? It was a huge issue in the municipal elections, I think, this last fall. But here specifically in Salt Lake City proper, this poll is showing that 8 in 10 residents, 80%, say that either they or a friend or family member has been affected by the lack of affordable homes in Salt Lake City.
Yeah, and we also see that builders don't want to build most builders would rather build an $800,000 house than two $400,000 houses. I mean, it's better for them, and they're reluctant to jump in. So we don't have as many areas being developed for starter homes. We don't have as many builders willing to jump into these starter homes. People want the big money items, and right now there are a lot of people coming from California that are willing to spend the money and buy an expensive house. And so what does that do to people who can't afford a house?
Yeah, do you remember one of the conversations we've had about what they might do with the ballpark there on the old Bees ballpark on 1300 South?
Right.
Is to put in multifamily units, right? And I don't know where they are in the process of getting that actually all the way through the process, but again, it's one of the things where you say, okay, look, you have to be aware that people are really worried about this.
Another thing, people talk about Salt Lake County being almost like, it's a confined area, but we just did away with the prison out in Bluffdale area, Draper area. That opened up a ton of land. Now, I know that's a nice area between northern Utah and southern Salt Lake counties, but it would seem to me that that's an area that could be developed, and there could, if somebody did some planning, and I'm sure they will out there. They're good.
They've done a lot of planning, actually.
People out there to build some low-income housing or at least affordable housing.
So they've done a lot of planning out there at the Point, and in fact, that's what they call it, is the Point. And so it's supposed to be a walkable community that has everything from apartments and condos all the way up to single-family homes. On the upper end of the income level, but also where you can work and live and play, right? I know that that's their goal down there. Again, though, we're years out from actually having that built out. So that's one of the concerns too. And every time the governor talks about this affordable housing and recognizes that it's a problem, he says things like, we want our kids and our grandkids to be able to live here, live and work here. Well, this poll that they're referencing, they say that it's hard to envision a future in Salt Lake City. And if you look at the younger residents, 74% of young residents say that, and 77% of renters say that. They just don't see a future in Salt Lake City.
Yeah, which is tragic because this city's got so much going right now. I mean, downtown Salt Lake is as vibrant as any big city. I live in the Ogden Valley, but I come to Salt Lake because there are great restaurants in Ogden, don't get me wrong. But, man, there's a great restaurant every corner here. There's a great place, a great venue to go dancing
and professional
watch a movie.
sports.
It's Salt Lake's vibrant. We got to get people here so we can participate in some of these things. Salt Lake planners have done a great job with with the the nightlife and that. But housing is just a huge problem, and I know that we do have ordinances in place that you have to build so many affordable housing units per subdivision or per area. We don't see a lot of that.
I wonder if my own house, rather than moving out of it, if I could subdivide our 1 acre lot and have one of my kids live on the back half or something, right? I mean, I think about things like that, but they're really looking at zoning reforms, and there will be a conversation with the city council. But again, those numbers are significant. Those are significant numbers.
Yeah. Well, speaking of numbers,
speaking of housing,
mortgage rates are on the move again, and this latest shift could open a rare window for millions of homeowners to cut their monthly payments. We're going to ask when we come back, is it time to refinance? Is it something you should do? We'll ask Bankrate when we come back after this break if it's time to refinance.
Is your financial advisor managing your risk or just a spreadsheet? Hi, I'm Jeff Jr., founder of Trajan Wealth. Many financial advisors rely on target date funds, which are one-size-fits-all portfolios that don't know your name, your family, or your goals. And that passive management can leave you dangerously exposed. At Trajan, we look at the whole picture, not just the stocks everyone else buys, but the private market opportunities most advisors ignore. And as fiduciaries, we build a strategy around you, coordinating your investments, tax strategy, and estate into one cohesive plan. Your financial life deserves more than just a generic portfolio. Real planning isn't a stack of statements. It's the confidence of knowing where your income will come from for the next 30 years. Good enough isn't good enough for your family. It's time for a change. Schedule your complimentary consultation today. Call 855-TRAJAN-1. That's 855-TRAJAN-1.
Advisory services through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. Private equity investments require accreditation. Other services through Trajan Estate and Trajan Tax. Additional disclosures at TrajanWealth.com.
Every year, we seem to have a few people trying to get our free furnace promotion after the sale has ended. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and I know you want to save as much money as you can, but that's not how sales work. When they're over, they're over. Lucky for you, we still have a few more spots on our schedule we need to fill, so I'm extending the sale, but I'm not quite sure for how much longer. Definitely no later than April 30th, and once I think our schedule's full enough, I gotta pull these ads, so don't wait too long to call and schedule your free estimate. Just to recap, when you have Any Hour Services install a new air conditioner, we'll give you a new furnace for just the cost to install it. About $400. The furnace is free, you just pay the labor. So if your furnace and air conditioner are ready to be replaced, don't be one of those people that wishes they had called and taken advantage of our free furnace sale. The estimate's free, and we'll make sure you have all of the information you need to decide if our free furnace sale is right for you. If you think you might be interested, call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7400. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
As a social influencer, my days can be busy. 4 a.m., I hit the gym. 4:32, protein smoothie. 5:08, save time and money bundling my home and auto insurance with Progressive. Wait, if I bundle and save time, what would I do then? Just sit here and reflect? Like, why am I qualified to influence anyone? And how those weights are hollow? And half of my followers are bots.
You could save time and money bundling your home and auto when you switch to Progressive. It's one less thing to worry about during your already busy day. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers. Not available in all states or situations.
I know that hiring can be challenging. You need someone to match your role perfectly. Well, now you can meet them fast on ZipRecruiter.
Build your team, build it sooner. Meet your match on ZipRecruiter.
Just head to ZipRecruiter.com/free right now to try it for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Meet your match on ZipRecruiter. Try it free.
As veterans, we're no strangers to helping others.
It's what we were taught, trained, and told to do.
It could be for anything. Helping a friend move.
Listening to a fellow veteran for hours, at any hour of the day.
Or just simply making time for people. A neighbor, a loved one, or even a stranger.
We're often the first to help others. There's no question about it.
But we do have one question for the veterans listening.
When was the last time you reached out for help?
Perhaps it's time to do for yourself what you would do for others.
If you or someone you know needs resources, whether it's for stress, finances, employment, or mental health, don't wait. Reach out.
Find more information at va.gov/reach. That's va.gov/reach.
Brought to you by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs and the Ad Council.
Most of us like to be out in the sun. That's why sunscreen and other safety measures are key to protecting your skin from aging and cancer. The FDA recommends using a sunscreen with an SPF of 15 or higher. Also, look for broad spectrum on the label. That means both harmful ultraviolet A and B rays are blocked. Remember, SPF plus broad spectrum equal healthy fun in the sun. Visit www.fda.gov/sunscreen for more information. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
911, coming back. What happened?
My son and his wife and their 2 children haven't responded.
Susan Powell disappeared on a snowy morning in 2009.
And I said, Josh, where are you? You need to get home.
And her husband will never be held accountable.
Your wife is missing, Josh.
Yeah, but
And you want to think about it for a couple of days?
I'd had this overwhelming feeling that he had done something to her already.
I'm Dave Cawley, host of the podcast Cold.
Then he starts making phone calls to Susan's phone.
Hello, Susan. We are on our way back.
It's the deepest of deep dives into this tragic tale of abuse.
Where was Josh when Susan disappeared?
I don't know. Of one mother's desperate attempt to escape.
This is me, covering all my bases.
Help prevent it from happening again.
Our focus has and continues to be finding Susan.
Listen and learn by following Cold wherever you get your podcasts.
Inside Sources.
We talk a little bit on this show about mortgage rates and how they fluctuate up and down. And while we're talking about how they're sort of tied to what's going on politically and nationally and internationally, a bank rate analysis finds that a shift downward has potentially created a window for a lot of homeowners to maybe lower their monthly housing costs.
By refinancing, right? Which is super interesting to me because it feels like we've heard that people who owned houses during the pandemic-ish era, right, don't want to change because they have such good mortgage rates. So we have with us Alex Gailey, who's a lead reporter at Bankrate. Thanks for joining us, Alex.
Thanks for having me here.
I'm wondering if you could just start right off the bat by telling us, why do you think it's a good time to refinance?
We're catching a bit of a breather with mortgage rates. So mortgage rates did drop in April down to 6.34% on average for the 30-year fixed mortgage, according to Bankrate estimates. And based on an analysis we did, we found that about 2.7 million homeowners fall in that category where they could drop their rate by at least 0.75% and lower their monthly payments with a refinance.
Is that 0.75% a number that you take significantly, Alex, in as much as if you can drop it by that much, it's financially worth doing, but if it's less than that, maybe wait?
It's a good rule of thumb that helps homeowners gauge whether the refinance math works in their favor. It's not a hard and fast rule. If you could get your closing costs for very low for that refi, or you have a higher loan amount, could make sense to refinance if you can get a rate that's 0.5 percentage point lower than your current one. But this 0.75%, just a good rule of thumb, and it can go even, if you can get even greater than that, up to 1%, then that could be even more financially advantageous. It's important to keep in mind that refinancing isn't free. You do have to pay closing costs on that new loan, and so you do want the monthly savings to be big enough and worthwhile enough that you're paying back over time those upfront costs quickly enough to make it worth it. And, you know, there is a break-even period here. It really depends on the refinance cost at the end of the day, but it is going to take a few years likely to recoup that upfront cost.
So if homeowners are considering this, what are some of the best questions they need to ask themselves? I mean, it feels like you already answered several of those, but if I am sitting at maybe 7% and it's 6.35, should I wait until it goes to 6? Or what's your advice for homeowners in general as they start to think about that?
Well, you should ask yourself, what is your break-even point and what is your timeline for the home? If you're planning to only live in that home for another year or two, it's probably not worth the upfront cost of refinancing because it usually takes about 3-4 years, maybe even longer to break even. You also want to ask what are the typical upfront costs that you should expect. It's usually 2 to 6% of the loan amount, and you want to make sure you have that set aside in a savings account so that you are prepared to pay that come the refinance time. And you also want to consider how much equity you have in the home. So usually you're going to get the best rate if you have at least 20% equity, and you're also able to then drop PMI. So it's really a double win because it lowers your payment even further. And then you should also ask yourself, am I shopping around enough? Am I getting enough quotes? Am I talking to enough lenders? That's the best way to save. You don't want to just take the first rate that you can see, because your rates can vary by a full percentage point from one lender to the next. And that's based on our own research we've done with the Bank Rate Marketplace.
I'm really interested in some numbers. You mentioned one, Alex, and that is that at the current 6.34% rate, as many as 2.7 million Americans could benefit. But if rates go down to 6%, if I'm reading this right, as many as 5+ million homeowners could benefit from refinancing. That many are in that sort of gap that they're at the high 6s or low 7% rate.
That's right. The pool of refi eligible homeowners would grow substantially if we get to that 6% average 30-year fixed rate. And that really comes down to the fact that so many people locked in mortgages in the high 6s, low 7s, high 7s, and the distribution or the mix of people with more different mortgage rates has really changed in the last 5 years. Roughly 22% have mortgage rates that are 6% plus, and that they have actually exceeded the homeowners with mortgages below 3%. And so, yes, every time the rate drops by just 0.01%, about 90,000 more homeowners on average would benefit from refinancing, according to our bank rate analysis. And so you are picking up bigger chunks of refi eligible homeowners because of where people are sitting with their mortgage rates today compared to just 5 years ago.
So Alex, I have another question for you. And when people weigh the pros and cons, it looks to me like the mortgage rate varies. It feels like all the time, like every day it varies. How long is this process? Like if somebody says, okay, I'm going to start this process, and then the mortgage rates maybe are not as low as they had hoped for, what's the window there of getting the best rate?
Yeah, a typical standard mortgage refinance takes, anywhere from 30 to 45 days from application to closing. And so it really depends on when you talk to your lender and when you lock in that rate and you have everything essentially ready to go. So if you do see that there is a refi window, it could be pertinent to just start at least acting quickly and getting those conversations on the books and running those numbers so that you are scoring the best rate. Of course, what you see out in the news, these average mortgage rates, it's a good indicator of where rates are at today, but ultimately your rate is going to depend on your credit score, your income, your equity in the home, the specific loan amount. I mean, all these personal factors, but at least if you see that, hey, I can drop my rate potentially by 0.75%, this is the green light for me to start exploring that conversation, especially if we continue to see rates trending down. That might actually continue to work in your favor, and you might even get a bigger drop there.
This may be way too much of a broad question, but as mortgage rates are dropping, but it doesn't seem like the Fed is reducing its rate. Are they? I would have thought they would be dependent on one another. Maybe they are to some extent, but is there something else that's driving mortgage rates down or that helping those to come down?
So mortgage rates are connected to the broader interest rate environment, but they're not directly affected by the federal funds rate. They are typically mortgage rates follow the 10-year Treasury. And what we are seeing with the bond market is that yields are elevated because of geopolitical uncertainty, fears around inflation and oil prices. But because we have seen ceasefire negotiations, some of that uncertainty has calmed down a little bit in the markets, and we are kind of, I think, at least seemingly are moving in a positive direction in figuring out the geopolitical uncertainty. And we have to obviously keep an eye on inflation. But as long as yields stay elevated, it's unlikely that mortgage rates are going to move too much or see any sort of drop. So it really depends on the macroeconomic outlook over the next few months on whether, and that will ultimately determine if mortgage rates continue to decline or if they stay where they're at, or even there is always the possibility they could go back up.
Thank you so much for joining us. That was a really interesting conversation. And, you know, it's an interesting thing to talk about because I just keep hearing so much, oh, we're going to stay. We don't need to refinance. You don't want to do that. But Alex is saying, and she's a lead data reporter with Bankrate, that for a lot of people, millions of people potentially, that it could be a decent time to go ahead and do that.
Yeah, so if I think the message I got from Alex was this: if your current interest rate, your current mortgage rate is above 7,
yeah,
like I think the number was 7.09 or greater, you should take a hard look at refinancing because you could save a lot of money. And the current rate is 6.34%. It's not going to take a long time before you do reap the benefits of that change. So yeah, I hope a lot of our listeners can talk to their friends and family about maybe taking a look at refinancing their house.
Well, we're getting word that a man who acted as a signature gatherer has been charged with multiple counts of forgery following an investigation by the Uinta County Clerk Auditor. We're going to break down what we know next.
It's 11:29 at KSL News Radio. I'm Cameron Elliott. KSL's top national story this hour. From ABC News, peace talks with Iran appear to be in limbo, and Vladimir Putin is seizing the moment.
While the Trump administration seems far from any kind of deal with Iran after abruptly canceling negotiations last weekend in Pakistan, Vladimir Putin is happily stepping in, meeting face-to-face with Iran's foreign minister in Russia. Putin promising his support to Iran in seeking peace.
ABC's Martha Reddit's reporting. Other national stories KSL is following. The man police say tried to run into the White House Correspondents' Dinner to take out President Trump and other top administration officials has officially been charged. ABC News Justice Department reporter Alex Mallon was there in the courtroom in Washington, D.C.
He walked into the court. He was in a blue jumpsuit, and he was very direct in the questions he was answering from the judge. His voice was booming, actually, as he just said, yes, Your Honor. He said his name, acknowledged the rights that he has. And the judge detailed that he was charged with 3 felony counts of attempted assassination of the President of the United States, transporting firearms and ammunition over state lines with the intent to commit a felony, and discharge of a firearm during a crime of violence.
Investigators say the suspect also left a note vowing to go after as many administration officials as he could. Taking a look at your money at this moment, the Dow Jones is up 6 points. That's 0.01%. The S&P 500 is down 48 points. That's a little over 6-7%. And the NASDAQ is down 297 points. That's a little over 1%. Coming up, things are heating up in the Salt Lake Valley. KSL weather is next.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Come see what all the buzz is about at Utah's oldest Volkswagen dealer, Strong Volkswagen. New Jetta are just $158 a month during Volkswagen Driver Days. At Strong Volkswagen, lease new 2026 Jetta S just $158 a month. $158. Even new Tiguan, $233 a month. $233. And the roomy, family-ready Atlas, just $350 a month. Atlas comes standard with heated seats, heated steering wheel, keyless start, and third-row seating. They're selling fast with 0% financing for 60 months. And you get a lifetime warranty. Lifetime, no charge. Make a beeline for German engineering and a new lineup that's creating all the buzz. New Jetta, $158 a month. New Tiguan, $233 a month during Volkswagen Driver Days at Strong. Strong Volkswagen, driven by transparency, built on family, powered by people who care. For over 70 years, Strong Volkswagen, located downtown. StrongVW.com. StrongVW.com. For details, call 801-596-2200.
Did you know know Utah State University is home to one of the nation's leading centers for disability research and advocacy? At the Institute for Disability Research, Policy, and Practice, we work side by side with Utahns with disabilities, their families, and community partners to make our state more accessible and inclusive for everyone. Our researchers, educators, and advocates partner with family service providers and policymakers to create real lasting change. We believe that everyone deserves a chance to live, learn, work, and play in our communities. From helping children reach their potential in early intervention programs, to building accessible technologies, to improving mental health and employment supports, our work touches every corner of the state. The Institute for Disability Research, Policy, and Practice is the only disability-focused research center in the state of Utah. That means we're Utah's home for innovation, data-driven policy, and community solutions that make life better for people with disabilities. Find us at idrpp.usu.edu.
Attention, RV owners or RV wannabe owners. It's the used RV blowout sale. RVs from all over the Intermountain West have been sent to the Layton Hills Mall for this RV liquidation event. Repos, buybacks, rental returns, and trade-ins. Blowout pricing. Every RV has been inspected and serviced and ready to go. Free admission, free parking. Dealers welcome. It's the used RV blowout sale. This Wednesday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to dusk. Go to UtahRVEvent.com. Sponsored by Paris RV. Paris RV is your locally owned, family-run RV dealership. We strive hard to find the very best RVs for the price. With 4 locations, over 1,000 RVs in stock, 42 service bays, and 4 super parts stores. We're sure to help take your family on the best RV vacation. Check out our perfect family bunkhouse trailer, the 26BH. That sleeps 9 for $19,995 or $227 a month. Zero down. Life is short. Enjoy it. North Murray, South Murray, Payson, and Pocatello. ParisRV.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. Earn 4.24% on savings at UCCU.com. Here's Ricky Meese.
We've had a little bit of busy traffic on northbound I-15 in Davis County approaching Parrish Lane in Centerville. Seems to be moving okay. It's just crowded. But all your Valley freeways are seeing a mostly delay-free drive. We do have this crash in West Valley eastbound on the 21st South Freeway at 5600 West. Look for them out of traffic on the right. While you're planning your day, plan for comfort too with the Good Feet store. Find the location nearest you at goodfeet.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Temperatures are going to start going up through the low 60s today and then get higher through the week, hitting 67 by Thursday and breaking into the high 70s over the weekend. Right now, though, it's about 50 degrees and partly cloudy downtown. I'm Cameron Elliott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Well, it's been reported earlier today that a man who worked as a signature gatherer for a recent political petition has been charged with multiple counts, 11 counts of forgery and 11 counts of election fraud by the Uinta County Clerk. That's out in the Uinta Basin.
Well, let me ask you first. Let me just set it up a little bit, but then I'll ask you some questions. So remember, we've already talked about on this show the petition to get Prop 4 repealed. So that has failed to move forward. But while people were collecting signatures for that effort, they were being paid for the number of verified signatures. And this, the man who has been charged now with multiple counts of forgery, they found over 100 signatures. In fact, it was 165 out of 300-ish were fake.
Yeah, that's astounding. So Chad Klutz, K-L-U-T-Z, has been charged. Of course, he's presumed innocent in Vernal. That's where the 8th District Court is in Uinta County, with multiple counts of forgery and election interference for gathering signatures. And what they're claiming is that he turned in 305 signatures. And I guess, Holly, you get paid by the number of signatures you
verified,
collect.
Yep.
Yeah, so an audit was done on those, and they turned out to find some 165 potentially fraudulent ones. Now, he's only been charged, I say, with 11.
Well, that's one of my questions.
Right.
Why 11 and not 165?
Because there's no difference. At some point, you get to the point where 11 third-degree felonies, you can't stack them 165 deep. So usually a prosecutor, and they do this a lot in drug cases, you sell drugs 20 times. Like
Okay.
Each time it's 1 to 15. Like you can only stack them 2 deep. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there are a lot of other examples I could give, but we usually just get a representative sample, a serious enough representative sample to say, okay, we've got your attention, but 165 counts would be a waste of time because, for one thing, the trial would be you'd have to bring in 165 people to say, is that your signature? No. You know what I mean?
You know,
it wouldn't make a single day's difference between 11 and 165.
At least a couple of people who signed, allegedly, they were dead before their signatures appeared on this petition. So clearly not them.
I think this is a case of somebody who got lazy and was just putting the signatures together, figured there was no way he was going to get caught, and just turned them in, and he got his collection. I don't know what he was getting paid per signature, but it's significant. I know that
it adds up for
candidates
sure.
who pay for this pay a lot of money, so there must be something there. And then he just turns them all in, and as you would expect, the county clerks do a routine audit.
Yep.
They'll grab. He turns in 300, maybe they grab 10 and say, "What's up with this?" And they call a person just confirming that you signed this document, and the person says, I didn't sign anything.
Yeah.
I mean, he over half of the ones that he turned in are allegedly fraudulent.
Yeah, that's a lot. So this was actually a Facebook post put out by the Uintah County, I think. Let me just double check. Yeah, Uintah County, and they said no matter the issue, the process stays the same. And then talked about of more than 300 signatures collected, 165 were flagged. These concerns cannot be ignored, and the matter was immediately referred to the Vernal Police Department for investigation. The investigation confirmed that several signatures were not valid, including instances where individuals reported they had not signed and cases where names of deceased individuals were used.
So the exact charges that he's facing, 11 counts of forgery. In other words, he signed a person's name without that person's consent,
right,
with the intent to defraud, which
right,
would the intent to defraud the election clerk, and 11 counts of what they're calling unlawfully signing a certificate of nomination sheet, which is technically tied to elections.
Well, he had to sign it as he turned it in, verifying that these were legitimate
right,
signatures. So he forged the signatures and then attested that they were, and then lied about it. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I mean, this is serious enough. I know they're I say third-degree felonies, the lowest level felony, but 11 of them with 5-year prison term, and 11 misdemeanors that all have up to a year. I mean, this is a case of an individual. I don't know that he's going to go to prison, but you could do some time for something like this. And I'll tell you another reason why I think this would be a problem, why they're pursuing this case and why he could face significant time, is because you've got to send a message.
Yeah.
You've got to send a message. And if you recall, we were gathering signatures. There were groups gathering signatures to put I think this was at the time they were trying to get Prop 4 back on the ballot, or at least revisit it.
Yeah, and it was that effort by members of the Republican Party to put it on the November ballot. And it's a moot point because they were not able to get enough signatures in enough counties, right? They got enough overall signatures. These 165 wouldn't have made a difference one way or the other, actually. But you're right. It does. I think that's the Uintah County. No matter the issue, the process stays the same. Their statement there. It's one of the areas where, people either love the signature gathering process or hate it, or, there's not a lot of in between. But this person was brought in from out of state, and that was something, too, that was part of this argument as all this stuff was going down. Well, I didn't have to pay for out-of-state gatherers. Well, look, this is how they chose to do it, and he was from out of state. So I did have a question for you. It says he's been charged, and he lives in North Carolina. Has he been arrested?
I don't know the answer to that yet, but certainly we have extradition treaties with virtually every state in the union. So if he hasn't been arrested, he will be. This was just unsealed recently, so I'm assuming he's been. I don't know what the bail is even. I'm trying to find it.
I looked because you've taught me how to read records. It's $20,000.
Yeah. So if unless he's got $20,000 or able to post a bond, he'll be taken into custody and extradited. But even if he does post the bond, he's gonna have to show up here in Utah and face the music. And it was interesting. The probable cause statement kind of goes through how they found him, the GPS location. He was staying in a hotel at the time. He stayed at the Antlers Inn there in Vernal. I've stayed there, and he got a room for some period of time. And what I think another thing that caused people some concern is he wasn't really in town all that long.
Right.
But he was gathering a ton of signatures.
A lot
He
for
was
Uinta.
really working hard. And I would also be interesting to know how much he got paid, although it doesn't really matter. But he must have found names from, I was going to say the phone book, but there are no such things. But, I mean, I assume that he had some information about these names so that he could say, I met with, Greg Skordas. He lives in the Ogden area.
Yeah, so I haven't done, of course, signature gathering on that process, but my understanding is that you're going to get a list, and you're going to get a list of voters, registered Republican voters, yes. Right? And you're going to go to the households where you think people are going to be friendly. I mean, that's the way the voter rolls work and why they're made available to campaigns, including these type of campaigns. But I think that's probably what would have happened is he would have had a specific list with names and addresses, and he could have gone to those homes, knocked on the door, asked if they wanted to sign. Maybe he did and they didn't want to sign, or maybe he just sat in the hotel room and just scribbled their names. I don't know.
Yeah, so the warrant has been issued at $20,000. He's already got an attorney who's filed an appearance at counsel. I believe he may have posted bail, although it doesn't say that, and he'll be facing the music here. I don't see a court date set yet. We'll definitely follow up with that, but he'll have to come back to Utah and face these charges and may end up doing a little time in the Uinta County Jail.
Signature gathering has been a little bit rife with controversy, I do have to say.
Yeah.
We're finding
That's right.
some problems.
Well, when we come back, we'll have Holly's fun facts, my closing arguments, and an inspiring story of a deaf nurse hoping to expand opportunities for disabled healthcare professionals. That's really interesting. We'll be right back.
More than 50 million Americans suffer from a form of mental illness.
And Utah isn't immune, with nearly 1 in 3 people dealing with anxiety, depression, or another form of mental illness.
But there's hope. We can all take action to keep ourselves and our loved ones safe.
That's why KSL has teamed with the Huntsman Mental Health Foundation to bring you hope and help you thrive.
It's Healthy Mind Matters.
Find out more at healthymindmatters.com.
If you want unlimited talk, text, and data on a super fast network, Big Wireless will sell it to you right now for as little as $70 a month. Or you can buy it from Pure Talk for half of that. I'm talking about unlimited talk, text, and data for just $34.99 a month. But wait, there's more. When you switch to Pure Talk, you'll be switching to an American wireless company that's committed to keeping 100% of its customer service in this country. I appreciate that. In fact, that's why I switched. I also appreciate the way they support our vets and our skilled workforce. Dial pound 250, say micro, and get unlimited talk, text, and unlimited data for just $34.99 a month. That's pound 250 micro. Stop paying twice what you need to pay for the service you want and switch to an American wireless company that actually stands for something. Pure Talk.
We want to talk about SOTA Diet and Nutrition. SOTA stands for state of the art. And Andy and I both let go of massive amounts of weight. You more than me.
70 pounds in 5 months.
And I did 37 pounds in 3 months. And what worked for me was so many things. Talking to a nutritionist every week and having her tell me what to eat. I can do as I'm told.
Yeah.
But I have no clue where to begin.
And I needed the help too. It's just food. There's no pills, no injections. So you learn how to both let go of the weight and then how to keep it off.
So SOTA Diet and Nutrition is a great place to start. But if you started with pills or medications and you find yourself starting to gain some weight back, SOTA Diet and Nutrition is a great way to learn how to have a new relationship with food to go into the future.
You can talk with a nutritionist by calling 866-800-SOTA, S-O-T-A, or you can go to their website, sotadietandnutrition.com.
Join now and your partner joins for free. 2 people, real accountability for the price of 1.
Join us for a short time to have results that last a lifetime.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. Minky Couture has grown from a heartfelt mission into a beloved brand known for comfort and luxury with 8 retail locations and a thriving online store. At its core, the company is all about comfort and community. Owner and founder Sandy Hendry joins us with more.
Minky Couture began with a desire to bring comfort to those in need. In 2009, when my daughter became ill and was hospitalized, I longed for a way to bring her comfort in her recovery. Unable to find the perfect blanket to bring her solace, I created one myself, giving rise to Minky Couture, best blanket ever. After 30 years as a teacher, I knew that I wanted Minky Couture to positively impact as many lives as possible. We employ local mothers as seamstresses, allowing them to work from home, providing for their families, and strengthening our community. Our Heart of Minky program is another way we give back, donating thousands of mini Minky blankets each month to NICUs across the country. These blankets bring warmth and comfort to premature babies and to their families during very difficult times. At Minky Couture, every blanket is made with the highest quality fabric, ensuring both softness and luxury for years to come.
Minky Couture is dedicated to making a difference, one blanket at a time, blending warmth, comfort, and community impact. Learn more at their website, minkycouture.com. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
Any Hour Services free furnace sale is going on right now. If you haven't scheduled your free estimate yet, do it now. Call Any Hour Services today or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
Everything to my back is dark.
High in the alpine wilderness.
Really ugly clouds coming over from the north.
A place
The ridgeline is imposing, the escarpments, the drops.
where survival
It's dark now. I have nothing.
is never certain.
This is not good.
My name's Dave Cawley, and I'm the host of a podcast called Uinta Triangle. It's about the disappearance of an Australian hiker named Eric.
Our conclusion, and that of the sheriff, is that the mountains have decided to keep him.
Come retrace Eric's footprints with me.
You have done this walk too, but this is your backyard.
Did he really make a wrong turn, or did he decide that he was done?
He is not the first or last person to vanish in this remote region.
It was haunting to see the photos. I mean, really.
Find and follow the podcast series Uinta Triangle. That's Uinta, spelled U-I-N-T-A, Triangle, wherever you get your podcasts. All episodes out now.
And expanded Inside Sources.
One of my past careers was being a registered nurse. That was a long time ago. So when I saw this story, this came as a press release to me at Utah Policy, and I just loved it because it is the story of a former high school dropout, Dion DeMille, who's deaf, and she is graduating with her Doctor of Nursing practice this Saturday at Weber State University.
That's pretty incredible. And you mentioned a minute ago, right before we started, that you would have thought that was almost impossible to do, to be a nurse and to be deaf.
Yeah, and even in the story, they talk about how she can hear with a stethoscope because there are different technologies that help amplify that.
Whenever somebody says I can't do something, I say, well, watch me, and I go do it. When I was about 6 years old, there was a mass vaccination clinic here in Salt Lake City. And I remember being so terrified. And then I get up to the front of the line and there's a nurse. And she got down on my level and she just talked to me and said, hey, you got this, you know. And I remember thinking, I want to be like her one day. I'm Dion DeMille. I will be graduating with my DNP, Doctorate of Nursing Practice. And so I always wanted to be a nurse, but I was always told I couldn't be because I was profound deaf. And so one day I just decided, the heck with it, you know, whether people say I can or can't, I'm gonna do it anyway. When I first got my LPN, that was my biggest challenge. It was pretty much unheard of back then for someone deaf to go through nursing school. I had to fight for legitimacy, and I had to fight for my right to be there. The biggest thing for me is I want to use my life experiences and my education to get into a leadership position where I can really advocate for students with disability and really help them to see there's no reason why you can't become a nurse if that's what you want to do. You can be a doctor if that's what you want to do. So let's figure it out. Let's find what works for you to help you be successful. And that's my ultimate goal. I'm excited to graduate. School in your 60s is a little bit harder than school in your 20s. But that being said, I'm sad too, because I've really enjoyed my time in school. I love learning, but never stop learning, right? And so I will keep going in some way or another, and can't wait for that journey to come.
Isn't that just the funnest story?
And she's done incredibly well.
Yeah.
It's an LPN and a DNP. I've never heard of it.
So LPN is the licensed practical nurse,
Right.
and then she got a bachelor's degree, then she got a master's degree, and now she's getting a doctoral degree in nursing practice. So
Good heavens. Good for her.
Her goal really is to help expand people who want to work in healthcare who may have a disability, and it can be deaf like she is. It can be somebody who's in a wheelchair. There's just a lot more opportunity, and I love that.
Yeah, there's a lawyer in Weber County that appears in court, and he's blind, and he has a paralegal that walks him, and other lawyers. I don't know his name, but he's a very impressive lawyer. He does a very good job, but he clearly is blind, and he just goes to court and he advocates, and I think he does a great job. And I think people like that, I wish I knew his name because he deserves some credit. Just are a great role model for people with disabilities to say, hey, you can do things.
Yeah.
And I think being deaf and being a nurse and getting through a doctoral program.
Yeah.
Good for her. I mean, that's amazing.
I
That's
know.
amazing. I had a hard enough time getting through law school. I could hear everything and see everything.
So yeah, anyway, so kudos to her. I'm excited for her. That's awesome. Okay, so I wanted to tell you today's April 28th. It is National Superhero Day. Do you have a favorite superhero?
If I did, it would be Superman.
Superman?
Just because he's kind of the most realistic. I don't know. None of them are realistic.
As he falls out a window.
I know, but I don't know.
Do you know, Superman to me will always be Christopher Reeves. There's no other Superman who can replace Christopher Reeves.
Oh, yeah.
I was that era, right?
Yeah,
that
okay,
age.
yeah.
I have a couple of female superheroes. So I really loved watching Invisible Woman from the Fantastic Four as she has a baby, right? And is able to, she protects her baby and her family. It's like, oh, I love that so much. And I also love the Wonder Woman. Of course, I think that was really fun. So that's today's National Superhero Day. Okay. It also is the day that in 1758, James Monroe was born. He was the 5th president of the United States from 1817 to 1825. It was also on this day in 1908 that Oskar Schindler was born. And you asked me, was that the Schindler of Schindler's List? Yes. Yes, it was.
That was one of the movies that just tore at me.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was a tough one to watch.
Yeah.
And what a remarkable man he turned out to be.
Yeah. Yeah, and
I'll never watch it again, however.
It's super powerful, and the story is really powerful. Now, this story, it's a little annoying to me, but it was on this day in 1923 that game inventor Elizabeth Maggie Phillips applied for her second patent. It was for a game that became Monopoly's predecessor. Her original patent was received in 1904, but copycat versions started circulating, so she applied for the second patent. It did not protect her intellectual property, however, and Charles Darrow sold a slightly altered version to Parker Brothers. Even though she immediately went public with the plagiarism, she never did get the credit she deserved. She was the inventor of Monopoly,
Really?
not a guy.
Oh, wow.
So there you go.
That's an
my
interesting
fun fact of the
yeah.
day. It is also the birthday of Elena Kagan. So she was born today in 1960. And of course, as you know, she became the U.S. Supreme Court's 4th female justice.
Amazing.
1960.
Well, yeah.
I think that's it for my fun facts.
So speaking of female justices, I guess you know where I'm going here. And we talked about it earlier, but since we're here, I've got to get on with this. I couldn't be more disappointed with what we're doing nationally and locally with respect to our judiciary. And I'm biased because I'm an attorney and I appear before judges. I'll never be a judge because I wasn't smart enough when I was in law school. But I appreciate what they do and I appreciate the sacrifices they make. And we hear our president attacking justices, some of whom he appointed because they don't agree with his decisions. That's not what we do in America. That's not what we do. And now we're seeing it on the local level and even at the recent Republican convention, legislators, the chairman of the Republican Party, one of our congressmen, attacking judges when we appointed them. They applied. Our governor selected them, and they were approved. And unfortunately, the 3 that are really under the radar right now are female judges, 2 justices and 1 judge, and we're saying vote them out. I mean, that's really offensive to me, Holly. And I don't know them particularly well personally. I lost a case last year I was really disappointed with, but they're judges and they're justices of the Supreme Court for a reason. Diana Hagan was, by all accounts, one of the most brilliant lawyers that practice at the U.S. Attorney's Office. Jill Pullman had an incredible career at her law firm. Diana Gibson could be on the Supreme Court, except she never will now because of this.
Yeah.
And she's one of the most brilliant jurists in our state. I mean, these are 3 people that we should emulate, that we should have young women look at and say, yeah, I can do that someday, like the person that became a nurse after being deaf. And I'll tell you another problem that we're going to have. If you're a lawyer and you're doing incredibly well and you're thinking to yourself, do I want to take a sacrifice in the current salary I'm making and go serve the public and go be a judge because I can do a lot of good? You're going to take a second look at that because you're not going to be as comfortable thinking it's an appointment for life, because you're going to be under the radar of the legislature. You're going to be under the radar of other people. And you're going to have to decide to yourself, do I really want to be under the microscope when I'm a judge? Do I really want to have that burden? And we're going to lose good people, good candidates. We're going to have great people who would otherwise become great jurists who will say, I don't think I want to go through all that. And that's going to be a real problem for our state and for our judiciary. And I hope it doesn't happen, because I still think it's one of the most honorable careers you can have. Maybe one of the most honorable careers that a person can have is to be a judge. Let's hope that we allow them to serve, allow them to continue to serve. And I'll do everything I can to make sure that we continue to have good judges serving on the bench in Utah and nationally. And we shouldn't let decisions that we don't like make us decide, oh, then let's just throw out the baby with the bathwater. That does not make sense.
All right. Thanks for those closing arguments. Midday is